Chapter 1784. The three returned to the car after moving the plank. They didn't dare to stay any longer, and quickly left the place. Tang Yun and Ming Yao, on the other hand, were still in shock. They admired Yushu very much. "Shu, thank goodness we have you. Otherwise, Yao Yao and I wouldn't know what to do." Tang Yun shivered when she thought of the perverted look in their eyes. The consequences would have been unimaginable if they had succeeded. Who told them to be so greedy? They're not satisfied even after taking 1,000,000. Yushu suddenly called out. "Oh no, how are we going to buy the ice spirit fruit for Shield Bro if we give them all the money?" "Don't worry, we'll just call Dad and ask him to transfer the money to me," Ming Yao sighed in relief. "As long as he's fine, the money is small." "You're right, Uncle Chu is rich now." Yushu nodded. Ming Yao didn't stop the car along the way until they arrived at a small town and checked into a hotel. The three of them could finally relax. This time, it was more scary than dangerous. However, Ming Yao and the others, who were far away in the town, didn't know that there was a huge piece of news recently. Dr. Kang's medicine company was undergoing a complete overhaul. Not only did they lower the prices of all their old products, but they also released many new medicines. Among them was Dr. Kang's 100 Pain Relief, which was similar to Miracle Dr. Guan's painkiller, but its price was only half of Miracle Dr. Guan's painkiller. Moreover, during the product launch, Kong Guifeng also said that this price was only the price before mass production. It would be even cheaper after mass production. In fact, this was a hint to everyone that their products were the cheapest. If Miracle Dr. Guan's painkiller was cheaper than theirs, then their Dr. Kang's would definitely be cheaper. Not only that, Dr. Kang's medicine company's flagship product, Dr. Kang's Golden Creation, also lowered its price, and it was now half of Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine. Not only that, Dr. Kang's Golden Creation was also released. Not only did it have all the effects of the Golden Creation, but it also had the effect of removing old scars. The price of this product was only the same as the old Golden Creation, and this made the name of Dr. Kang's medicine famous. Although Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company's products were selling like hotcakes, it was still an old brand that was deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Now that the price had dropped, the patients who had been buying Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine and painkillers naturally went into the embrace of Miracle Dr. Guan's Golden Creation medicine and painkillers after seeing the cheaper ones. Even if Miracle Dr. Kang's Golden Creation changed its formula and wasn't the same as before, the consumers didn't know about it. Plus, the formula that House Hidden Yu gave to House Kong was something that this medical family had gone through countless trials and tribulations. The effect might be slower than Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine, but because of the cheaper price, it would take over the market in an instant. What's more, there was a premium edition of Jinchuang medicine for comparison. It could completely remove old scars, and the price was only the same as the previous Jinchuang medicine. This kind of great discount made the entire consumer market excited. Moreover, with the support of the Hidden House Yu, Dr. Kang's medicine company released new products one after another. Among them, Dr. Kang's weight loss medicine was the most successful one. It received a good response as soon as it was released, and the sales kept rising. Dr. Kong looked at the money coming in every day, and the corner of his mouth almost reached his ears. "Ha ha ha, Xiaoming, you did well this time. This is great. It's all thanks to you that the Hidden House Yu can support us so much." "Thank you for the compliment, Grandpa." Kong Ming was surprised that the Hidden House Yu would be so generous. In fact, how was the Hidden House Yu being generous? It was just that the Heavenly Elixir sect was very happy when they saw the formula, and they asked the House Yu not to mistreat House Kong. That was why the House Yu gave House Kong so many benefits. Moreover, these formulas were insignificant compared to the pill formula. Otherwise, the Hidden House Yu wouldn't be so generous. Chapter 1785. Recently, Xiaolong's position in House Kong had been completely marginalized. He wasn't allowed to participate in important matters anymore. He had become the manager of a pharmaceutical company's R&D department. Although this position sounded impressive outside, Being the manager of the R&D department in Dr. Kong Medical Group, it was nothing in House Kong. So Xiaolong tried his best to show off in front of Dr. Kong. Big bro, it's a little troublesome to acquire the small pharmaceutical factories. The factories aren't centralized, and it's not convenient to manage them all, but it's fine. Our House Kang's production line mainly produces the popular products, and those small factories can produce the less popular products. Each factory only needs to focus on one product, and we only need to send one of our own people to oversee the production. Of course, Big Bro is right. We can also expand the production line now and do it at the same time. This way, we won't delay production. Kong Mingming said. Yes, Xiaolong's right. Xiaolong, you just need to keep the formula a secret. You don't need to get involved in business like this. Dr. Kong said to Xiaolong. Xiaolong's eyes flashed with unwillingness. He was originally the heir of House Kong, but now, he was completely marginalized. Fatty Lai and Guan Xuemin didn't think that Lin Yi's trip would cause such a huge incident at home. At first, when Dr. Kang's medical company held the product launch, Fatty Lai didn't pay much attention to it. He thought that they were making a loss and making a last struggle. But when Fatty Lai saw that Dr. Kang's Golden Creation and Baitonxia were flowing into the market, as if they weren't making a loss at all, it was already too late. The pharmacies that were working with House Lu seemed to have discussed it beforehand, and all of them refunded their orders. House Lu's stock was already on alert, and the refunds from the distributors were piling up like a mountain. Fatty Lai, a veteran in the business world, was stunned. The current situation was completely out of his expectations. Miracle Dr. Kang's Golden Creations cost was there for all to see. How could they sell it at such a cheap price? And where did their Baitonxio recipe come from? If their Golden Creations price reduction and Baitonxio's launch were because they stole Fatty Lai's company's formula, then the Golden Creations Special Edition and weight loss medicines launch proved that their formula didn't come from Miracle Dr. Guan's company. After all, even Guan Xuemin and Fatty Lai didn't have the special edition injury medicine recipe, let alone the weight loss medicine that had never been produced before. All signs pointed to Dr. Kang's medical company receiving support from some powerful faction. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to have so many new products. Plus, they'd have to rent a lot of production lines from smaller factories to keep the supply under such a high volume of sales. Miracle Dr. Kong definitely didn't have this kind of connections. Although Fatty Lai's guess was close to the truth, it was useless even if he guessed it correctly. Lin Yi wasn't home, and they didn't have a product to compete with him. What frustrated Fatty Lai the most was that Lin Yi's phone was turned off. Fatty Lai dialed and dialed, but the phone was still turned off. Left with no other choice, Fatty Lai went to Xuemin's house to discuss a plan with him. He didn't know that Lin Yi was afraid of being disturbed and turned off his phone. After that he fainted. Tang Yun and the others didn't remember to turn on Lin Yi's phone. Elder Guan, what should we do about Dr. Kang's pharmaceutical group? Fatty Lai went straight to the point. I can't get through to the boss, but judging from the current situation, if we don't take some measures, we in House Lu won't be able to hold on much longer. You can't get through to Lil Yi. Why don't you try calling Tang Yin and the others? They should be together, right? Xuemin said after some thought. I forgot about that. Fatty Lai was embarrassed. He was too worried and didn't know that Tang Yin and the others were together with Lin Yi. He quickly dialed Tang Yin's number when Xuemin reminded him. This time the call went through. Tang Yin's voice came from the other side. Mr. Lai, it's me, sis-in-law. Is the boss with you? I have something urgent to talk to him about. Fatty Lai dialed Tang Yin's number and let out a sigh of relief. It was as if he found his pillar of support. House Kang's incident was sudden, but with Lin Yi there, they should be able to defeat them. Fatty Lai remembered that Lin Yi had said that these two drugs were just testing the waters. If the market responded well, they would release other special drugs. It was Fatty Lai who had advised Lin Yi not to release all the products at once. They needed to do it step by step. That was how they managed to create a lasting sensation in the market. Of course, if it wasn't for House Kang's incident, Fatty Lai's approach would be correct. He could ensure that Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company would always appear in the eyes of the people and not be forgotten. However, Dr. Kong Medical Company made this move and completely messed up Fatty Lai's plan. Currently, if they wanted to compete with Dr. Kong Medical Company, they had to lower their prices and release other products that could compete with them. They had to release more effective medicines to get back the market. After all, although the price of Dr. Kang's golden creation was high, it was an old brand. Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company's injury medicine might have similar effects, but the brand's history was too short. They only won with the price advantage. Now that Dr. Kong suddenly sold their golden creation at half the price of Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Company, the consumers would naturally switch to the old brand. Lin Yi. Tang Yun glanced at Lin Yi, who was unconscious on the sofa inside. Mr. Lai, if there's anything, just tell me. Lin Yi can't answer the phone right now. Then, this matter still needs the boss to deal with. Why don't we ask him to call me back when it's convenient? Fatty Lai said. He's training. If there's anything, just tell me. I'll help you pass the message. Tang Yun hesitated. Although Fatty Lai was a trustworthy person, Lin Yi had made too many enemies. If the enemies accidentally knew that Lin Yi had gone mad, they might come to find trouble. That was why Tang Yun didn't tell Fatty Lai about Lin Yi. Chapter 1786. The situation is terrible. Above, Fatty Lai paused. Although he didn't understand, he could guess that Lin Yi wasn't in a good position to answer the phone. Otherwise, Tang Yun wouldn't have said that. So he stopped looking for Lin Yi. Instead, he told Tang Yun everything that happened in the company recently. Tang Yun didn't think that Dr. Kang's company would retaliate at this time. She didn't know what to do. Mr. Lai, why don't you wait for a while? I'll discuss it with you and call you back? Okay, sis-in-law, I'll wait for your call. Fatty Lai said. Tang Yun hung up and Ming Yao saw that Tang Yun's face didn't look too good. What happened? Dr. Kang's golden creation lowered the price of their medicine, and they released a lot of special medicines to compete with Miracle Dr. Guan's company. Tang Yun told Ming Yao and Yushu what Fatty Lai said. Yao, Lin Yi is in a coma now. What should we do? Fatty Lai can't make up his mind. Then, can we lower the price as well? Meng Yao may be the daughter of Pengzhan Industries, but she didn't know much about business. If they lower the price, we should be able to win some market share, right? I don't know. Tang Yun looked at Lin Yi worriedly. She finally understood the saying. Misfortune never comes alone. It was fine before, but trouble came when Lin Yi went berserk. Sister Yin, why don't you let Fatty Lai call Uncle Chu to discuss a solution? After all, Uncle Chu has been doing business for many years. He's experienced. Yushu suggested. Yeah, we can let Dad think of something. Meng Yao's eyes lit up after hearing Shu's words. Even Lin Yi doesn't know much about the business side of things. That's why he doesn't have to do anything. If we can lower the price, we can let him and Dad discuss the other things? Okay, I'll call him back now. Tang Yun didn't dare delay, and called Fatty Lai back. Sister-in-law, is there any news? Fatty Lai asked. Lin Yi can't answer the phone right now, but I discussed it with Yao and Shu. You can call Uncle Chu to discuss a solution. Should we lower the price as well? Tang Yun asked. Discuss. Fatty Lai smiled bitterly. He was a veteran in business, and House Lu had no lack of business geniuses. The second son of House Lu was also a veteran in business, but they didn't have any new products to compete with Miracle Dr. Kang's medical company. Just lowering the price wouldn't bring back too many customers. Were they supposed to be cheaper than Miracle Dr. Kang's medical company? Miracle Dr. Kang's golden creation was currently priced at 49, and Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine was priced at 99. The difference between the two was double. Unless Fatty Lai sold it at 29 or 39, there was no way he could turn the situation around. But 29 and 39 didn't have much money left after deducting the channel fees. Fatty Lai, on the other hand, was in a huge debt. The factories were basically mortgaged after they were built. And if he didn't make this mistake, with Fatty Lai's current development model, he'd be able to make a lot of money in the next few years, even if he wouldn't see much profit in the beginning. But he didn't know that Dr. Kang's medical company would interfere and cause him to be in a difficult situation. If Lin Yi could release a few more special medicines, even if the injury medicine wasn't profitable, he could still sell it. But right now, Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company only had injury medicine and painkillers. These two products could be found in Dr. Kang's medical company, and the price was half of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company's. This was obviously targeted at Fatty Lai. Fatty Lai believed that if he lowered the price, Dr. Kang's medical company would sell it at a lower price. Because they had other products to support them, just the special edition Golden Creation and weight loss medicine were enough to make Dr. Kang's medical company earn a lot of money. Golden Creation and Beitong Xiao were just supplementary products. What's wrong? Tang Yun heard the hesitation in Fatty Lai's words and asked curiously. Nothing. Fatty Lai smiled bitterly. I'll think of something. If boss is free, ask him to call me back as soon as possible. Okay, I got it. Tang Yun was anxious, but nothing was more important than waking up Lin Yi. The company lost money and could earn it back, but Lin Yi's situation couldn't be delayed. Fatty Lai sighed. Although he didn't know what happened to Lin Yi, if he couldn't answer the phone in this situation, then he really couldn't make it. How is it? Although Guan Xuemin only worked in the company in name, it was still Lin Yi's company. He still cared about it. Boss didn't answer the phone. He might be doing something more important. Fatty Lai smiled bitterly. Fatty Lai smiled bitterly. I've already told sister-in-law to get back to me as soon as he's free. Then hold on until Lin Yi comes back. He must have a way. Guan Xuemin smiled bitterly. Xuemin had faith in Lin Yi. That's not all Lin Yi has. He has a lot more, and every single one of them is a priceless treasure. We can only hold on for now. Fatty Lai nodded. As long as they grit their teeth and get through this, when Lin Yi comes back, he can give Dr. Kong Medical Group a great counterattack. But the situation was worse than Fatty Lai expected. At first, Fatty Lai thought that even if Lin Yi didn't call today, he would call 2 or 3 days later. But he didn't. This made Fatty Lai worried, and he had to announce that the factory would temporarily stop production. But even if they stopped production, the workers would still get paid unless they were laid off. But many of the workers had just signed the contract, and it hadn't even expired yet. If they were laid off, they would have to pay a huge sum of compensation. This was undoubtedly a huge sum for Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. So, they could only stop production and not lay off. Fatty Lai thought that as long as they could hold on until Lin Yi came back, everything would be fine. But if they laid off the workers, although Fatty Lai could gather the money, what would happen in the future? How would the factory resume production after Lin Yi came back? At the same time, Fatty Lai had no choice but to lower the price to promote the medicine. The original 99 yuan Miracle Dr. Guan injury medicine was actually 33 yuan per bottle. Chapter 1787. The situation is bad, however. Lu Tianyi didn't have any new sales information yet, but Fatty Lai saw the promotional advertisement from Dr. Kang's medical company. To celebrate the launch of Dr. Kang's rheumatism ointment and stomach remedy, anyone who bought Dr. Kang's weight loss medicine, Golden Creation, rheumatism ointment, or stomach remedy during the event would be able to enjoy a buy one get one free event. In other words, anyone who bought the above 4 medicines would be able to get a bottle of Dr. Kang's Golden Creation, or Baitongxio. Golden Creation and Baitongxio, on the other hand, were also buy 2 get 1 free. In other words, anyone who bought 2 bottles of Golden Creation or 2 bottles of Baitongxio, or 1 bottle of Golden Creation and 1 bottle of Baitongxio, would be able to get a bottle of Golden Creation or Baitongxio. This way, Fatty Lai's sales method was completely useless. Even if he lowered the price, they would only be buying 1 get 2 free. Not only was the price 1 yuan more expensive than Dr. Kang's medical company, but the choices weren't flexible either. The brand wasn't as old as Dr. Kang's medical company. Under these circumstances, Fatty Lai was at his wit's end. Although the current price was still a distance away from the cost price, a product couldn't just be considered as the cost. He had to subtract the cost price from the wholesale price, and then subtract the marketing expenses. Only then would he be able to get the final profit. W Quan 1 W Quan W Quan. But now, buying one get two free wasn't profitable anymore. He couldn't just let the pharmacies sell their products for nothing, could he? At the very least, he had to leave a certain amount of profit for them. Otherwise, who would sell their products? Fatty Lai had expected this from Dr. Kang's side, but he couldn't do anything about it. He had to sell his stock at a low price because he had no other choice. The funds he had were only enough to pay the workers this month, and the new production line had been shut down a long time ago. W Quan W Quan W Quan W Quan. Compared to Fatty Lai's difficulties, Dr. Kang's family was celebrating. After such a long time under Miracle Dr. Guan's pressure, they finally made a beautiful comeback and took back Miracle Dr. Guan's market share. Although Jinshuang medicine and Baitongxia were consumables, it was impossible to buy them every day. A family would only buy them once or twice in a period of time. However, in a family, there would always be people who would buy Dr. Kang's weight loss medicine, rheumatism ointment, special edition of Jinshuang medicine, and special stomach medicine. The free gifts of these medicines were enough for the whole family. In addition to Dr. Kang's strong promotion, not many people chose Miracle Dr. Guan's medicine company's products. Looking at the mountain of inventory, House Lu's face was full of worry. Most of the refunds from the distributors were paid by House Lu, because Fatty Lai had no money left. All his funds were invested in building the production line. However, no matter how rich the Lu family was, their liquidity was limited. Faced with more and more returns, the Lu family had emptied all of their assets. This caused some internal strife within the Lu family. The first to be unhappy was the second son of House Lu, Lu Tianli. Father, it's only a matter of time before Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company goes bankrupt. Why do we still have to invest in it? There's no way to get this money back. Seeing that House Lu's assets were all gone, Lu Tianli, as the person in charge of the business, naturally objected. Tianli, this is nothing. Lu Zhenhu shook his head. You didn't attend the meeting of the noble houses. You don't know how important Lin Yi is to us. As long as Lin Yi comes back, everything will be fine. The money you lost will be earned back sooner or later. Then what if Lin Yi doesn't come back? Even Fatty Lai said that he couldn't contact Lin Yi. Who knows where he went? Lu Tianli said, Father, that Lin Yi may be a practitioner, and he may be strong, but we don't have any practitioners. We only focus on business. If we go bankrupt because of this, then in the future. All right, Tianli, that's enough. Lu Zhenhu waved his hand. There are no practitioners now, but that doesn't mean there won't be any in the future. I think Jing Jing is a very good seedling. I heard that Miracle Dr. Lin is also an alchemist. If he manages to refine a foundation establishment pill, we can get one for Jing Jing. When Jing Jing becomes an expert, our Lu family will really rise to the ranks of the Cultivators Association. This is the foundation for us to establish ourselves in the future. Lu Tianli still wanted to say something, but he gave up after hearing his father's words. Tianli, there's a saying you have to understand. Helping someone in a time of need is something they'll remember for the rest of their life. But the icing on the cake can only be exchanged for temporary benefits. Tianyi said, Miracle Dr. Lin isn't back yet. And if we help Fatty Lai now, Miracle Dr. Lin will definitely remember our kindness. But if we don't do anything now, then, haha, House Yu used to be such a powerful existence. But now they're either dead or crippled, leaving only the crippled Yu Kuan and his cousin Yu Haitian to take over House Yu. House Yu's assets are enough for them to live a rich life, but it's impossible for them to become a noble house again. Lu Tianli's expression was a little uncertain, but since his father said so, he nodded. All right, but we don't have much money left. If this continues, we won't be able to hold on much longer. Lu Zhenhu didn't care about the family's wealth, but he knew how serious the situation was after hearing Tianli's words. He sighed. Jing Jing, what do you think? We'll bet everything we have on this, Lu Jinghan said after some thought. We don't have a way out. We can either retreat now or hold on till the end. Once Lin Yi makes a comeback, he won't mistreat us. But What if he can't make a comeback? Tianli asked. Then we'll just start from scratch. Lu Jinghan shrugged. Dad, don't worry. If we really lose everything, then we'll start all over again. Tianli nodded. Since his daughter said so, he could only continue to support Fatty Lai. The wholesale price was very high at the beginning, and now that the price was lowered, even if the distributors didn't return the goods, House Lu would still have to compensate the distributors with a large amount of money. Fatty Lai couldn't take out this amount of money because he had invested all his money into the new production line and factory building. Only House Lu, as the distributor, could take it out temporarily. But as more and more people returned the goods, not only House Lu, but even Fatty Lai was starting to panic. Although Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company had its glory days, it was still too inexperienced. How could it compare to the old Dr. Kang's medical company? There was no doubt about the outcome of this market war. Dr. Kong would be the winner. Fatty Lai's days felt like years, but he gritted his teeth and persevered. He believed that as long as Lin Yi came back, all the problems would be solved. Chapter 1788. Chapter 1798. Arriving at Snowy Valley, the road ahead was getting more and more difficult. But Meng Yao had learned her lesson. She opened the sunroof and had Tang Yun use the binoculars to observe the road ahead. If something was wrong, they would immediately turn around and take a detour. Last time, it was because of Shu's plan that they were able to escape. If they met another robber, Meng Yao didn't know if she would be as lucky as them. If it wasn't for the two robbers' greed, they wouldn't have ended up like this. However, little Shu was also smart. She could see that these two people were extremely greedy, so she tricked them. If they weren't greedy again and again, they wouldn't have ended up like this. The road ahead is a bit rough. There are weeds everywhere, but there shouldn't be any danger. Tang Yun reported the road condition along the way, making Meng Yao feel more at ease. But it wasn't surprising. This was the kind of place where no one lived. Under normal circumstances, other than some expeditions, no one would come here. How far are we from Snowy Valley? How come I don't feel cold at all? Meng Yao was curious. The temperature here wasn't high, but there were trees and weeds. It didn't look like an extremely cold place. There should be around 10 kilometers left, but the road is rough. We might have to take a longer detour, Tang Yun said after comparing the coordinates on the map with the GPS. There were no roads here, so they could only make sure that they were going in the right direction. As for the specific route, they would have to find it themselves. Although Mo Kongwen had drawn the route map for them, they could only rely on themselves to adapt to the situation when there was no road for them. Hold on, we should be there today. Meng Yao had been driving for the past few days, and she was exhausted. But among the three girls, only she and Shu knew how to drive. Tang Yun didn't know how to drive, and Shu couldn't leave Lin Yi's side. So Meng Yao had to drive alone. Finally, after a morning and afternoon, in the evening, the car finally passed through this jungle that was very difficult to pass through. However, after the jungle, there was a yellow wasteland. There was no vegetation here, and there were no birds or beasts. It could be said that this place was like the land of the dead in the movies. This kind of strange scene, especially under the illumination of the setting sun, seemed even more eerie and desolate, causing everyone's heart to shiver for no reason. What is this place? Tang Yun looked at the map in her hand. If it weren't for the fact that there was no problem with the direction, she would have thought that she was on the wrong path. I don't know, but the route given by Mr. Mo shouldn't be wrong. He wouldn't lie to us. Meng Yao increased the speed of the car. It was a barren wasteland, but the road conditions were much better than before, allowing the car to move faster. Unknowingly, Tang Yun sneezed and frowned. It's so cold. Meng Yao felt a chill down her spine after hearing Tang Yun's words. Previously in the forest, everyone was extremely hot, especially with Lin Yi and Shu, two natural furnaces. However, after coming to wasteland, everyone felt the temperature drop significantly. Even after Meng Yao turned off the sunroof and air conditioner, the cold could still penetrate through the car and into everyone's body. It's so cool. Yushu breathed out in relief. Along the way, she was dizzy from the heat, But after arriving here, she felt much better. Could it be that we are already close to Snowy Valley? The strong temperature difference made Tang Yun suspect that they weren't far from Snowy Valley. According to the map, it shouldn't be far from here. It seems like we've found the right place. Meng Yao looked at the location on the map and GPS and let out a deep breath. Finally, we're almost there. It should be. Tang Yun nodded. If we hurry up, we might be able to reach Snowy Valley before the sun sets. This place was too barren. Compared to the forest before, everyone felt a sense of fear. They really didn't want to stay in this lifeless place for a second longer. Meng Yao increased the speed of the car and drove according to the coordinates on the GPS. Although there was no map here, and the GPS showed a huge blank space, as long as they knew the exact coordinates, they wouldn't go the wrong way. They didn't know when it started, but snowflakes started falling from the sky, and from the thin layer of snow on the ground, it turned into a thick layer of white. Meng Yao felt that it all happened in the blink of an eye. The white snow made Meng Yao slow down the car. After all, safety was the most important thing when driving in the snow. It's so cold here. If she didn't come here herself, Tang Yun wouldn't have known that there was such a magical place in this world. There was a forest not far away, but after a while, it was a barren land, followed by a thick layer of white snow. The environment here couldn't be judged by normal standards. Yun, you seem to be afraid of the cold? Meng Yao asked Tang Yun. I can't say that I'm afraid of the cold. It's just that I'm more sensitive to cold temperatures. But in winter, when the stove goes out in the middle of the night, I'm the one who can withstand the cold the most. Tang Yun said. As they moved forward, there was a depression. The terrain was getting lower and lower, as if it was a natural valley. The snow was getting heavier and heavier. This place could be considered a world of snow. It was hard to imagine that the weather here in August would be this cold. This should be the area of the snow valley, right? Meng Yao said as she looked at the coordinates on the GPS. It was all white in front of her, and she could only see a few dozen meters away. Anything further than that was all she could see. It was just a blur of fog. It should be. Let's look around. Where is the snow valley? Tang Yun frowned as well. The closer they got to the destination, the harder it was to find the target. They couldn't wander around in the snow, could they? There was a limit to the petrol in the car. If they used it all, how would they get back? However, just as they were getting lost, a figure suddenly appeared in front of the car. He shouted, "Who are you?" Meng Yao jumped in fright. She didn't expect someone to suddenly appear here. She quickly stopped the car. In fact, even if Meng Yao ran over, she wouldn't be able to hit the person. This person was a patrolling disciple of the Snow Valley. He had the strength of an Earth-class early phase. With this kind of strength, Meng Yao couldn't kill him even if she wanted to. #target=_blank. Chapter 1789. This is the territory of Snow Valley. If you are a backpacker or an explorer, please stop. The person looked weak, but there was an indescribable sense of authority in his voice. The weirdest thing was that this person was only wearing a white shirt in this snowy place, but he didn't seem to be cold at all. This person, is he a disciple of Snow Valley? Meng Yao was sure of his identity after hearing what the person said. She let out a sigh of relief and opened the window. But as soon as the window was opened, a gust of cold wind blew into their faces. Both Meng Yao and Tang Yun couldn't help but shiver. Shu, on the other hand, seemed to be very relaxed. Perhaps it had something to do with the big stove she was hugging. No, close the window, I'll go down and talk to him. Tang Yun saw that Meng Yao was shivering in the cold and said, although they had brought long johns in the car, they didn't expect Snow Valley to be this cold. Mo Kongwen and Old Lin also neglected this point, so Meng Yao couldn't help but complain when they arrived at this place. Can you go? Meng Yao was a little worried. It's fine, although I'm cold, I can withstand it more than you guys. Tang Yun opened the door and got off the car. She respectfully greeted the patrolling disciple. Hello, we are heading to the Snowy Valley. Could you please lead the way for us? To the Snow Valley? The patrolling disciple was slightly stunned. He glanced at Tang Yun, but did not see anything special about her. As an ancient sect, Snow Valley naturally had some dealings with other sects, but no matter how he looked at Tang Yin, she did not look like a cultivator, let alone a disciple of other sections. "We want to buy some treasures." Tang Yin saw that the patrolling disciple was confused, so she directly told him what they wanted. "So you're here to buy treasures?" The patrolling disciple realized. Every ancient sect had their own way of earning money. Ice Palace earned money through trials, Sky Elixir sect earned money through selling pills, and Snow Valley earned money through selling treasures. Because of the geographical environment of the Snow Valley, in the same month of the year, different locations nearby could produce different climates and temperatures. Under these climates and temperatures, many spiritual herbs could be grown. Even the Heavenly Elixir sect was one of the customers of the Snow Valley. So when Tang Yin said her intention, the patrolling disciple didn't doubt it at all. Those who could find this place to buy treasures were usually recommended by other sects or families with similar status. "Holy Church, stay here and don't move. I need to return to the sect and report to the elder on duty," said the patrolling disciple. "Okay, thank you," Tang Yin said gratefully. She didn't think that things would go so smoothly. After all, when Linny talked about the path to the Ice Palace, it was so difficult, and they had to participate in trials. But in the Snow Valley, buying treasure seemed to be a matter of course. After the patrolling disciple finished speaking, he casually threw a tag on the car next to Tang Yin and disappeared into the snow. In the blink of an eye, he was gone. Tang Yin looked at the tag on the car strangely. On the tag, she saw patrolling disciple 15, waiting to report. And on the tag, there was a symbol that she didn't understand that looked like a snowy mountain. But after seeing these words, Tang Yin could roughly guess the meaning behind it. Other than that person, there must be other patrolling disciples, and the other patrolling disciples wouldn't ask anything after seeing this tag. Thinking of this, Tang Yin returned to the car and patiently waited for the news. Not long after, a disciple of the Snow Valley, who was dressed exactly the same as the previous disciple, appeared beside the carriage. However, after seeing the tag on the carriage, he quietly left without saying a word. It seemed that this was a long-standing rule. The patrolling disciple 15 quickly returned to the Snow Valley, and when he was about to see the elder on duty, he was told by other disciples that the Valley Master had gathered all the elders for a meeting in the meeting hall. The elder on duty had also gone, and if he wanted to see the elder on duty, he could only wait at the door of the meeting hall. The patrolling disciple 15 knew the rules and didn't dare to disturb. He came to the door of the meeting hall and stood respectfully at the side, waiting for the elder on duty. There were other disciples here who also had matters to discuss with the elder on duty. The other elders were also waiting quietly like him. At this time, in the meeting hall, there were 5 people of different ages sitting. Some looked very young, some looked old. Sitting in the main seat was a young woman in her 20s, and beside her was an old woman who looked to be in her 70s or 80s. Of these two, the young one was the current Valley Master of the Snow Valley, Sydney, and the old woman beside her was the Grand Elder of the Snow Valley. The other 2 men and 1 woman were the 3 Heaven-class elders of the Snow Valley. Sydney was 28 this year, and had just broken through to Heaven class not long ago. As for the other elders, the strongest one was only in the middle stage of Heaven class. Looking at the entire Snow Valley, other than the Grand Elder, who was at the peak of the late stage of Heaven class, no one else had reached this level. This was also the thing that the Snow Valley was most worried about. As one of the 4 great ancient sects, the Snow Valley had once been glorious and prosperous. However, with the departure of the previous Valley Master, it began to decline. The 2 great water cultivation sects that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Ice Palace had become a bit lacking in manpower. What worried the Snow Valley most was that the Ice Palace had actually found an inheritor, and it was said that the inheritor had a rare ice physique. This made the Snow Valley feel an unprecedented pressure. Although the Snow Valley was once one of the 4 great sects, but the Heaven class meeting focused on current strength, not how glorious one was in the past. Therefore, finding an inheritor with a suitable physique became the most important thing for the Snow Valley. Of course, it wasn't just the Snow Valley. All the ancient sects that practiced the 5 elements cultivation were all looking for their inheritors. Because only an inheritor could open the Heaven-class island and let the peak of the late stage of Heaven-class to cross that barrier. The Ice Palace and the Snow Valley were both water element sections. Of course, although the Snow Valley was called the Snow Valley, what they cultivated was a mist element mental cultivation method. And the inheritor of the water element, the 3 inheritors of mist, water and ice, had to be present in order to fulfill the conditions to activate the water element. Sydney's physique could only be said to be an ordinary physique. Although this physique was not considered good, it was already the best physique in the Snow Valley. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to break through to Heaven class at the age of 28. For a Heaven class, this age was already very heaven-defying. Target =_ blank. Chapter 1790. Translator. Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios. Apart from Rock Candy, who had a fake ice heart jade bone physique, anyone who could reach heaven rank in their 20s was already a genius among geniuses. Although Ice Palace's Xiaoqing looked very young, it was only because she had used some kind of pill to maintain her youthful appearance. Sanctuary. But Sydney looked even younger, at least from her appearance. She didn't look much older than Rock Candy. Moreover, 10 years wasn't much of a difference to heaven rank experts who could extend their lifespan. But Sydney still felt a little conflicted. At the thought of Rock Candy, Xueli and the Supreme Elder were filled with a deep sense of jealousy. Rock Candy's physique was already good enough. If she could use an ice heart jade bone pill, then she could perfectly receive the inheritance. But before the ice heart jade bone pill was refined, the news that Ice Palace had found a cold physique inheritor came. This made Xuegu's eyes red with jealousy. Why did Ice Palace get all the good stuff? So these days the Grand Elder felt like menopause was coming again. Every time he thought of this, he would gather the elders in the sect to discuss countermeasures. But no matter how they discussed, the final result was the same. The person with the best physique in Xuegu was Sydney, but to use this physique to understand the inheritance, that was basically impossible. Even if she used the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill, there was no guarantee that it would be able to change her physique. Grand Elder Valley Master, I have an idea. I wonder if it will work? The one who spoke was a heaven rank elder of Xuegu, surnamed Zhang. Sanctuary. Oh, what do you think? The Grand Elder's eyes lit up as he quickly asked. If we, Xuegu, refine the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill and give it to Palace Master Rock Candy, would she give the cold physique inheritor to us? Elder Zhang said. This. The Grand Elder frowned, as if he was considering the feasibility of Elder Zhang's words. But after thinking for a while he still shook his head and said, I'm afraid it won't work? If it was our Snow Valley, would we do the exchange? This. Elder Zhang was a little speechless. Indeed, he had thought too simply. An inheritor was not only a peak late-stage heaven rank expert, but also the person who was most likely to step into the heavenly Tao. Therefore, every sect treasured it greatly. How could they exchange it so easily? Supreme Elder, I think Elder Zhang's words might sound a little unrealistic, but if you think about it carefully, it might not be impossible. Xueli said. After all, the heavenly stage island is the goal of all the ancient sects and ancient families. Although it is possible to open the heavenly stage island, if the inheritors of the 5 elements and the inheritors of the water element are not complete, the success rate will be greatly reduced. So for the sake of the big picture, I don't think the Ice Palace will refuse. Xiaoli is right. Once our Ice Palace loses an inheritor, it will be much more difficult to open the island. If we can really refine the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill, we can give it a try. The Great Elder pondered for a moment and said, Then I'll contact the Ice Palace right now. If they agree, we'll try our best to find someone who can refine the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill. Xueli said. As for the heaven and earth treasures needed to refine the Ice Heart pill, she did not have to worry about them. The Snow Valley was famous for producing heaven and earth treasures. Although it was a little difficult to collect the materials needed to refine the ice heart pill, it was not a difficult task for the Snow Valley. The meeting came to an end. Shueli went to contact the Ice Palace, highest elder went back to cultivate, and the other 3 elders went back to their respective duties. Elder Zhang, there are a few people outside the Snow Valley. They say they're here to buy treasures, do you? Seeing Elder Zhang come out, the patrolling disciple immediately went to greet him. Today Elder Zhang was on duty. Everything in the Snow Valley had to be done by Elder Zhang. Oh, then bring them to the guest hall to see me. The Snow Valley didn't reject anyone who wanted to buy treasures. This was also the source of income for the Snow Valley. Because of its geographical location, the Snow Valley was different from the Ice Palace. Other than a naturally formed depression, there was nothing else. There were no dangerous spirit beasts, nor were there steep cliffs. It couldn't be a training ground, so the Snow Valley couldn't start a training ground. They could only rely on the special climate and environment to plant treasures to exchange for money. Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu didn't think that the elders of the Snow Valley would be so easygoing. They actually agreed to receive them in the guest hall. This was out of Meng Yao and the others' expectations. After all, an ancient sect was a high and mighty existence. Sending an elder to receive them was a bit too much. However, what they did not know was that the Snow Valley had always been like this. This was how the Snow Valley survived. As for why the elders had to receive them, it was because the value of the heaven and earth treasures could only be decided by the elders. The other disciples of the Snow Valley could not decide on their own. So instead of letting them receive them, it was better for the elders to come out personally. This is our Snow Valley's elder on duty, Elder Zhang. If you need any treasures, you can discuss it with him. The patrolling disciple bowed politely to Elder Zhang in the reception hall, then left to continue his task of patrolling the valley. Greetings, Elder Zhang. Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu all imitated the Jianghu people and bowed to Elder Zhang. However, Yushu was carrying Lin Yi, so it was a bit difficult for her to do so. Elder Zhang glanced at Tang Yun, Ming Yao and Yushu, a trace of doubt in his eyes. Even a sky-class master couldn't directly see through a practitioner's strength, but a sky-class master could tell if the person in front of him was a practitioner or not. But Elder Zhang didn't feel the existence of pure qi in the 3 of them, so he was a little confused. The people who came here to buy heavenly treasures were all cultivators from various sects or clans. Ordinary people would not know of the existence of the Snow Valley, but the 3 people in front of him made him a little uncertain about their identities. I heard that you need heavenly treasures, but you don't seem to be practitioners? Yes, we are not practitioners, Meng Yao admitted readily. Meng Yao admitted it straightforwardly. She knew that pretending was useless in front of a real practitioner, so she might as well admit it directly to avoid any misunderstandings. But the person she's carrying on her back is a practitioner. Elder Zhang didn't notice Linny before. Although Yushu was carrying someone, it must be a patient. Target equals _blank. Chapter 1791. Shuegu Part 2. Shuegu had seen a lot of things like this. A lot of sick practitioners would come here to ask for medicine, and naturally, they'd be carried here. But when Meng Yao said that he was a practitioner, Elder Zhang looked at Lin Yi and walked over, wanting to test Lin Yi's strength when Yushu called out, "Careful!" Oh, Elder Zhang paused, but he could feel the heat coming from Shu and Lin Yi as well. His eyes narrowed. Fire element? Deviated? We're not sure if he's a fire element, but he's definitely deviated. Meng Yao said, "We're here to buy treasures for him. If I'm not mistaken, you're here for the ice spirit's fruit, right?" Elder Zhang saw Lin Yi's condition, and guess what they were thinking? These years, there'd been a few fire element practitioners who'd come here to ask for the fruit. Elder Zhang had experience in this area. Of course, as precious as the fire spirit's fruit was, the ice spirit's fruit was of no use to Shuegu at all. Shuegu's practitioners were all mist practitioners, and even if they deviated, they'd still need the fire spirit's fruit. Eating the ice spirit's fruit would probably kill them instantly. As a result, The ice spirit's fruit was only a way for them to earn money or exchange. But in terms of value, naturally it wasn't cheap. The few fruits they'd traded earlier had all brought them even more valuable treasures. Elder Zhang's eyes are sharp. We're here for the ice spirit's fruit. The miss had never thought that there'd be a day where she'd flatter someone, but she said it so naturally, as if it was only natural for Lin Yi. Even she was surprised. I wonder what heavenly materials and earthly treasures you would like to offer in exchange? Elder Zhang said. The ice spirit fruit is a special product of the Snow Valley. There is only one of them, and the production is extremely low. It is one of the most precious treasures of the Snow Valley. So if you can't take out a heavenly resource of equal or higher value to exchange for it, then we won't make a move. We don't have any treasures, but I heard that you can buy them with money. May I know how much the fruit is worth? Mengyao was planning to buy it anyway. She didn't have any treasures at all. Purchase with money? Elder Zhang paused. Only those hidden houses and small sects that didn't have much good stuff would come to the Snowy Valley to buy some treasures. But those were just normal stuff. The ice spirit fruit had never been sold for money, and the few that were sold were all bartered. Yes, Mengyao nodded. I may be an elder of the Snow Valley, but I really can't decide the price of the fruit. Of course, even if you wanted to trade, I can't make the decision. It's all up to the Valley Master, Elder Zhang said. Why don't you guys rest in the guest rooms nearby? I'll get back to you guys after I ask the Valley Master about the price. I'll follow Elder Zhang's orders. What else could Mengyao say after that? Mengyao was already very happy with this result. Since Elder Zhang didn't reject them on the spot, it meant that there was a chance. Mengyao and the others were led to a guest room by the Snowy Valley disciple, and they settled down for the time being. Elder Zhang left for an entire night. When Mengyao and the others arrived, it was already dusk, so it was normal for him to come back the next day. They weren't in a rush. In fact, Elder Zhang went to see the Valley Master Sydney. But Sydney was discussing with the Ice Palace Master, Crystal Candy, whether or not they could give Xiao to the valley. Elder Zhang didn't dare disturb them, and decided to wait until the next morning to ask. However, the next morning, when Elder Zhang met Valley Master Xueli's face was very gloomy. Her originally delicate and fair face was now as dark as it could be. After seeing Elder Zhang, she only nodded slightly. Although Xueli was the direct disciple of the Supreme Elder, and the previous Old Valley Master, she was only a heaven-rank early-stage master, while Elder Zhang was a heaven-rank middle-stage master. Previously, Xueli was very respectful when she saw him. This time, something must have happened. Valley Master, what happened? Elder Zhang paused. He didn't have time to talk about the ice spirit fruit anymore. Bingtang politely declined the conditions proposed by our Snow Valley. Xueli sighed. Could it be that the Ice Palace didn't think about it? Metal, wood, water, fire, earth. Each element needs at least 2 inheritors to have a high chance of opening the island. If there's only one inheritor, it'll be very, very difficult. Elder Zhang said weirdly. Of course Bingtang knows. But she hinted to me that those people have already found a candidate for the inheritor of the water element. Xueli said helplessly. So, together with the inheritor of the ice element from the Ice Palace, there will be 2 inheritors of the water element. Although it's safer to have 3, which sect would be willing to give away a master at the peak of the late phase of heaven rank, and a future master of the way of heaven? That's true. Elder Zhang nodded, a regretful expression on his face. By the way, Elder Zhang, why have you come to find me? Sydney wasn't too happy that Crystal Candy rejected her. But some things couldn't be forced. Although she was young, she was still the master of a valley, so she quickly regained her composure and asked Elder Zhang politely. Valley Master, someone came to the valley to buy the ice spirit fruit. I don't know the price. Elder Zhang asked. Buy the ice spirit fruit? Which sect? Fiery Mountain or Sky Elixir sect? Xueli was slightly stunned and asked. After all, the ice spirit fruit was a precious treasure, but it was also of little value. Only those who cultivated the fire attribute heart technique could use it. For others, it was neither a medicinal ingredient nor could it increase their strength. That was why Shueli asked such a question. But whether it was the fiery mountain or the sky elixir sect, they would usually use treasures or pills of equal value. They wouldn't buy it with money. Only those hidden families and small sects would buy it with money. None of them. None of the three girls are cultivators. The only cultivator is a young man. He seems to be cultivating in the extreme Yang Heart Sutra, and has gone berserk. I don't know who taught him to come here to ask for medicine. Target equals _ blank. Chapter 1792. 1 billion. Sydney nodded. She didn't care where these people came from. The valley had its own rules, and as long as the price was right, they would sell it to you. 1 billion. Sydney said. That's not too high. Elder Zhang secretly clicked his tongue. For those hidden families and small sects that used money to buy treasures, the most expensive things they bought were only a few tens of millions. And even hundreds of millions were already quite amazing. But one ice spirit fruit actually asked for 1 billion. But thinking about it, it was not much. The Heavenly Elixir sect had promised to exchange the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill for 2 ice spirit fruits. However, Shueli's physique could not be changed by a single Ice Heart Jade Bone pill. If there was a marrow and bone remodeling pill and an Ice Heart Jade Bone pill, there was hope to change her physique to the Ice Heart Jade Bone physique. However, the marrow and bone remodeling pill was something that only existed in legends. The Sky Elixir sect practiced fire arts, and when they use fire to make pills, it was easy for them to go crazy. The ice spirit fruit was a necessity. Of course, perhaps it was because the valley had something that the Sky Elixir sect needed. Or maybe it was because of the arts they practiced. But the Sky Elixir sect's young master didn't ask for Sydney's hand in marriage. This saved Sydney a lot of trouble. I'll reply to them right away. Elder Zhang nodded. He clasped his fist and bade farewell before leaving the room. The next morning, a disciple from the Snow Valley brought food to Meng Yao, Tang Yun and Yushu. It was light and simple, but one could see that the Snow Valley was very polite to the customers who came here to trade or buy treasures. Of course, this was also because these people could bring benefits to the valley. If they didn't have any treasures or money, they'd be kicked out a long time ago. Elder Zhang was a man with eyes. One look was enough to tell that Lin Yi was a practitioner who'd gone mad, and Meng Yao, on the other hand, had the temperament of a girl from a respectable family. Someone like that had to be rich. After breakfast, Meng Yao didn't expect Elder Zhang to be here so soon. She stood up respectfully. After all, she was here to ask for help. Everyone, Valley Master Shui has already replied. The Ice Spirit Holy Fruit is worth 1 billion. If you want to buy it, you can pay now. Elder Zhang said. 1 billion. Meng Yao's eyes were wide open. Even a rich girl like her couldn't close her mouth from the shock. Although she didn't know how much money her family had, she could definitely afford 1 or 200 million. But 1 billion? Elder Zhang himself was shocked by the price as well. He wasn't surprised by the reaction of Meng Yao and the others. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the price the Valley Master has quoted. If you can't accept it, then I'm sorry, but please leave. Wait, let's raise some funds. Meng Yao naturally couldn't just leave. 1 billion was an astronomical number to her, but she had to try no matter what. Of course. Elder Zhang nodded. Then I won't bother you guys any longer. If you have the funds, you can have the disciples on duty contact me. With that, Elder Zhang left, leaving Tang Yin, who was still in a daze. 1 billion? Her mother had been so happy when she'd gotten 100 million back at House Tang. But Shuegu was asking for 1 billion right off the bat. Wasn't that a little too much? But looking at Meng Yao's expression, it seemed like she was willing to buy it for 1 billion. This touched Tang Yun's heart. She didn't really understand Meng Yao's feelings, but Meng Yao treated Lin Yi very well. Yao Yao. This 1 billion. Tang Yun's face was filled with helplessness. My family can only afford 100 million. I'll talk to my dad and see how much he has. Meng Yao nodded. 1 billion is a big number, but judging from Elder Zhang's tone, there doesn't seem to be any room for negotiation. We'll have to try our best. Peng Zhan had been immersed in his own narcissism for the past few days. fantasizing about how Pengzhan Industries could double its assets and become one of the largest corporations in the country. This was his lifelong dream, but it seemed that the dream wasn't that far off at the current rate of making money. His phone rang, and Pengzhan picked it up. It was his daughter's number. He couldn't help but smile. Yao Yao, how are you doing at Star West Village? Meng Yao was silent. She didn't tell Pengzhan about what happened to Lin Yi, but now she had to tell him the truth. Dad, something happened to Lin Yi. What? Something happened to Lin Yi? Pengzhan paused. What happened to him? He went berserk during his training, and now his whole body is heating up. He's like a furnace. Meng Yao explained Lin Yi's situation. We need a medicine to solve his problem, but they asked for 1 billion. 1 billion? Pengzhan frowned. He was shocked by the number. He'd made quite a lot of money recently, but this was an astronomical number. That much? Yeah. Dad, can you take it out? This is Lin Yi's life-saving money. We can't waste any time. Meng Yao knew that she'd put her father in a difficult position, but she said it with determination. Yao Yao, don't worry. 1 billion, right? I'll think of something for you. Pengzhan's importance to Lin Yi wasn't any less than Meng Yao's. He'd picked up some clues from the phone call he'd had with his father, and so he didn't need to contact his father this time. He'd decided that he had to save Lin Yi first, no matter what. That's good. Meng Yao let out a breath of relief upon hearing that. Yao Yao, wait for my call. I'll help you get the money, Pengzhan said. As profitable as Meng Yue's plan was, Pengzhan had no choice but to withdraw a portion of his funds for Lin Yi's sake. As a result, Pengzhan called in Meng Yue immediately after hanging up. Pengzhan bro, why are you calling me again? Didn't I tell you about the results of the battle? You're not in such a hurry, are you? And Meng Yue asked with a smile on his face, but he was laughing coldly in his heart. You're going to be a pauper soon. Calling you Pengzhan bro is already an honor. Hashtag. Chapter 1793. Withdrawal. Meng Yue bro, it's like this. Something happened to my family. Can you see if you can withdraw the 1 billion first? Is it really urgent here? Pengzhan was worried about Lin Yi, so he didn't bother with small talk with Meng Yue, getting straight to the point. Withdraw. And Meng Yue paused, not expecting Pengzhan to withdraw his investment at this time. He'd be able to take some of the money away if he were to withdraw the 1 billion, but he'd be able to come back to life with it. Pengzhan was a veteran in the business world, and it was all thanks to the hypnotist that he'd lost his mind. That's right, please help me out, Meng Yue bro, Pengzhan said. What is it, Pengzhan bro? And Meng Yue asked unfazed. Something happened to my family. It's not convenient for me to talk about it. Pengzhan naturally wouldn't spill the beans about Lin Yi. I see. I'm not sure if I can withdraw my investment now. After all, I don't know anything about futures, so I'll just ask and get back to you later? And Meng Yue didn't reject it right away. It'd be too fake if he did. All right, I'll wait for your call, Pengzhan said. And Meng Yue hung up and looked at Jiang Wen curiously. Jiang Wen, what do you think Pengzhan's playing at this time? He's withdrawing the 1 billion? Jiang Wen didn't have much to do these days, and his focus was on trapping Pengzhan. Every time Meng Yue and Pengzhan talked, he'd put them on speaker and record it, so Jiang Wen could hear everything clearly. I'm not sure, but I can't let him withdraw the money. I have to make him bankrupt before I can get Meng Yao. But wouldn't Pengzhan suspect something if we don't give it to him? And Meng Yue said worriedly, even if you give him the 1 billion, can't you get the hypnotist to tell Pengzhan to marry Meng Yao to you? What's the point? The key is that Meng Yao herself has to be willing. With Lin Yi and Yushu, those two bastards, there's no point in Pengzhan agreeing to it. Jiang Wen shook his head. Then what about hypnotizing Meng Yao? And Meng Yue asked. Hypnosis is only temporary. You can hypnotize her for a while, but you can't hypnotize her forever. She'll be in trouble when she wakes up, and what I want is Meng Yao's heart. Otherwise, I'll just kidnap her and do what's done. Wouldn't that be the end of the world? But I don't like this feeling. In Jiang Wen's heart, there was a perverted obsession that had driven him completely insane. Then what should we do? And Mingyue listened to Jiang Wen completely when it came to Pingzhan. After all, Jiang Wen was the leader of the whole thing. Dad, the hypnotist thing reminded me of something. How about this? I'll let the hypnotist hint to Pingzhan and ask him what he's doing with the 1 billion. We'll make a decision after that. Jiang Wen said after some thought. All right, we'll make a decision after we get to the bottom of it. And Mingyue nodded. Jiang Wen's position in the Firewolves right now was absolute. Although he was using the Firewolf's power to do his personal business, neither the hypnotist nor the professor had any objections. After all, he was doing his best to earn money for the Firewolves, and at the same time, he had to get some benefits for his family, right? And so, the hypnotist pretended to be Mingyue's secretary after listening to Jiang Wen's words, and went to see Pingzhan with him. Pingzhan wasn't expecting Mingyue to come see him personally. He welcomed him in the company's guest room. Mingyue bro, what's the matter? You can just tell me over the phone. You don't have to come to the company, do you? Haha, I'm just passing by. And Mingyue said as he gave the hypnotist a look. The hypnotist's mouth emitted a very strange sound wave. After that, Pingzhan's expression froze for a moment, and his eyes became a little sluggish. Pingzhan, why are you pulling out the 1 billion? The hypnotist asked directly. Because Yao Yao called, saying that Yi's going crazy with his training, and he needs the 1 billion to buy the medicine. So I have to pull out the 1 billion. Pingzhan said expressionlessly. Who's Yi? The hypnotist asked subconsciously. It's Lin Yi, Pingzhan said. The hypnotist turned around and looked at Mingyue. He'd asked all the questions Jiang Wen wanted him to ask, and now he was waiting for Mingyue to make the decision. Hint to him that he can't just pull his money out of a business like this. If he changes his methods now, he might lose everything, but make him insist on pulling out the money. And Mingyue said, he didn't have a good excuse to explain how he'd lose everything. But now that Pingzhan was pulling out the money, wasn't this a good excuse? All right. The hypnotist nodded and let out another strange sound wave, repeating what Mingyue had said to Pingzhan. After that, another sound wave came out of his mouth, and Pingzhan returned to normal. What happened just now? Did he fall asleep? Pingzhan paused. Pingzhan bro, you were spacing out. I was just about to talk to you about pulling out the money. And Mingyue said, Pingzhan bro, I've asked Jiang Wen's friend, and he told me that financial investments are different from other businesses. If he were to pull out the money now, it might affect the whole plan, and he might lose everything. Why's that? Pingzhan paused. I'm not too sure myself, but it's probably the same principle as being a banker in a stock market. I don't know the specifics either. And Mingyue said, a financial genius like him must be doing things differently from others. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to make so much money. I see. Pingzhan was a veteran in the business world, but he'd never been involved in financial investments before. He only had a general idea of how stocks and futures worked, but he didn't know much about the more complicated ones. He was a little hesitant after hearing Mingyue's words, but there was a voice in the depths of his heart that kept urging him to pull out the money, even if it meant a loss. He had to pull out the money, and so, under the urging and hinting, Pingzhan said, Mingyue bro, help me talk to that person. He has to pull out the money. All right, but it's very easy for things to go wrong. If something were to go wrong. And Mingyue said innocently with a shrug. Hashtag. Chapter 1794. Lose all one's capital. I'll take responsibility if there's a problem. Pingzhan said. Should we start withdrawing now? How should I put this? And Mingyue wanted to stop Pingzhan, but didn't know what to say. After some hesitation he said, Fine, if that's the case, Pingzhan bro, we're both businessmen. Give me an authorization document. We won't take responsibility if there's a problem. All right, no problem. Pingzhan didn't think much about it, and with the hypnotist's hint, he gave the authorization document to Mingyue without hesitation. After getting the document, and Mingyue didn't stay any longer. She directly returned to the company with the hypnotist. However, on the way back, and Mingyue almost wanted to look up to the sky and laugh. What a great thing! And Mingyue and Jiangwen had been very careful when they were doing this, keeping a recording of the call. They didn't want Mingyao to suspect something and ask Lin Yi to cause trouble for them. But now, House Chu's only pillar of support, Lin Yi, had gone into a deviation. Even the heavens were helping Housen. There was no way Mingyue was going to give Pengzhan this 1 billion. And not only that, he wouldn't give Pengzhan a single cent. At first, Jiangwen and Mingyue had planned to create a false account when they went long or short. But the problem was that this financial genius had been making money before. Why would he lose everything all of a sudden? The futures market was ever-changing, but it didn't make sense at all. But that wasn't a problem anymore. And Mingyue could just say that it was Pengzhan's insistence on withdrawing the funds, forcing the trader to change the original plan. Not only did they fail to withdraw the funds, but they even ruined the plan, causing all the funds to go down the drain. Jiangwen was very happy after hearing the news. Lin Yi had gone mad? The heavens had opened their eyes. They could do whatever they wanted now that the biggest obstacle in front of them was gone. With that thought, Jiangwen and Mingyue went ahead with their plan. When Pengzhan got the reply from Mingyue, it was as if he'd been struck by lightning. He sat in his office with the phone in his hand, speechless. Lost money? All of it? How could this be? Just because he wanted to withdraw his investment in advance, his entire plan was disrupted, and he ended up losing everything? Pengzhan's expression was a little dazed as he stared at the familiar office. How many years of hard work was all gone in an instant? But as sad as he was, Pengzhan didn't forget about the important matter at hand. He suppressed the sadness in his heart after Mingyue told him the news. Mingyue bro, can you lend me 1 billion first? This sum of money is too important to me. I will definitely return it double in the future. Brother Pengzhan, it's not about me lending you 1 billion. Most of the money you lost was taken out by our clan. Big brother and the old man are urging me to take over Pengzhan Industries. And Mingyue smiled bitterly. Brother Pengzhan, you know that our clan lent most of our funds to you. Where do we have the money now? Pengzhan was dumbfounded after hearing the words. His company was going to be gone as well. Pengzhan didn't even think about losing money when he took out his company's shares and assets as collateral. But the hypnotist's suggestion made him put everything on the line. Even at this moment, he still didn't dare to believe that he'd actually lost everything. How could this be possible? He could have made money from this. Brother Pengzhan, to be honest, Housen has suffered heavy losses this time as well. We didn't want to participate in this at first, but you insisted on doing something big again. We didn't have enough funds, so we had to replenish our funds, but now we've lost everything. And Mingyue said, All right, Brother Pengzhan, my big brother will be taking over the company and those assets tomorrow. I hope you can cooperate. Pengzhan's heart was filled with bitterness and confusion. He wanted to say something, but Mingyue had already hung up. Even now, Pengzhan didn't think that it was Mingyue who'd set him up. One could see how powerful the hypnotist was, and how powerful the hypnotist was. But no matter what, Pengzhan dialed Mingyao's number first. He'd promised Mingyao that he'd call her if there was any news, but now, he had to tell her, no matter what, right? As much as Pengzhan wanted to help, there was nothing he could do. He might be sitting in his office, but he had nothing left. Daddy, how is it? Mingyao had been waiting for Pengzhan's call, but it had been a day and a night without any news. She was very nervous. Yao, I can't get my funds out for now. Pengzhan hesitated, not telling the truth. Yao must have been worried about Lin Yi's situation. She'd be even more worried if he told her that he had nothing left. Mingyao paused after hearing her father's words. I used all my money for that big project, so. Pengzhan lied. I'm sorry. Yao, I'll think of something. Daddy. But Lin Yi's situation can't be delayed. Mingyao was panicking. If we don't buy the medicine, his life might be in danger. I'll think of something else, Yao, don't worry. Pengzhan said bitterly. Daddy, I'll think of another way. Mengyao knew that her father was in a difficult position, or else he'd be more worried about Lin Yi than she was. She could tell from her father's attitude when Lin Yi was injured last time. Mengyao couldn't force it upon him anymore. Mengyao's face wasn't looking too good after hanging up. Tang Yin and Shu had heard the conversation with Pengzhan, and they understood her predicament. But what about Lin Yi? Maybe I should ask Fatty Lai. Maybe he can help. Tang Yun was helpless, and the only person she could think of was Fatty Lai. All right, let's see if he has any money. Mengyao's eyes lit up as well, but they didn't know that Fatty Lai's life was very difficult. All the money he had was used to pay the workers, but even so, he wouldn't be able to last long. House Lu was out of money, and the dealers who didn't get their refund banded together to collect the debt from Fatty Lai and House Lu. Chapter 1795. She didn't know much about business, but she'd been with Pengzhan for a long time, so she knew the basics. This time, House Kong had come prepared. They must have a master guiding them to be able to release so many new medicines in such a short time. Unless Lin Yi or Lin Dongfang were there, it was impossible for them to take down Dr. Kang's medical group with just a few formulas. You had it, and so did they. You didn't have an absolute advantage. Even if you sold the same things at the same price as them, you still wouldn't be able to win against Dr. Kang's brand. That's true, and Fatty Lai doesn't seem to have any money at all. He doesn't have any starting capital, so it's useless to just have the formulas. Tang Yin sighed. She wanted to borrow money from Bingtang the most, but how would she get in touch with her? In Songshan, Pengzhan dejectedly transferred all his shares and assets to House An's name. He didn't want to, but Pengzhan had to go through all of House An's accounts. Pengzhan had gotten a few financial experts to look at them, and all of them had come to the same conclusion. Their previous setup was perfect, but the sudden withdrawal had affected the overall situation, resulting in a huge loss for them. Of course, this was also because Jiang Wen had asked the firewolves to help him, hiring some analysts to create fake accounts based on the market. Not many people could predict the future's market accurately, but creating fake accounts based on the past market was something that most analysts and traders could do. Sacre Pengzhan thought of his retired father, his daughter Mengyao and Lin Yi. He was in a daze and depressed. All his assets were gone, including his cars, properties, and even Yao Yao's villa and car were all under House N's name. Pengzhan felt like he was at the end of his rope. He didn't have the face to face his father, his daughter and Lin Yi. Mengyao's villa, on the other hand, was under Pengzhan's name. House N didn't take over Mengyao's villa right away, but they did say that they'd take it after Mengyao packed her stuff. Yushu's villa, on the other hand, was under Pengzhan's name. Now the only thing that belonged to the Chu family was her father's bungalow in the village, but it was not worth much. Mr. Chu, money is gone, but we can earn it again. You can't be depressed. Faubert had seen Pengzhan's rise and fall with his own eyes, but Faubert didn't know much about Pengzhan's investments, nor would he interfere. Faubert felt that there was something fishy about the whole thing, but he couldn't find anything wrong with it. Li Fu, with your skills, find a new boss. I don't have the money to pay you anymore. Chu Pengzhan looked at Faubert and smiled bitterly. Holy Church, Mr. Chu, what are you talking about? Li Fu staying here, not because of money. I have long regarded you and Yao Yao as a family. Faubert said. Moreover, I can say that I have received a great favor from Lin Yi. No matter who it is, I can't leave. All right. Pengzhan patted Li Fu's shoulder and nodded heavily. Li Fu, go to Shu's villa and move the things back to Yao Yao's villa. What about you, Mr. Chu? Faubert paused and asked. I want to be alone, don't disturb me. Pengzhan waved his hand. Well, all right. Faubert could see that Pengzhan wasn't in a good mood, and there was no point in trying to persuade him. It was better to let him calm down first. Pengzhan sat on a bench by the roadside, and Faubert walked quickly to Ocean View Bay Villa. The Bentley no longer belonged to them, and Faubert had to walk home. Fortunately, he was a practitioner, and walking was nothing to him. Jianda didn't expect Jiang Wen to be this ruthless, taking all of Pengzhan's assets and money into House An's hands. Not only did he not admire him, but he was even more jealous. But even if he was jealous, Jianda still had to smile and praise Pengzhan in front of his father, and Mingyue and Jiang Wen. Jianda, didn't you say you have a grudge against Pengzhan? Pengzhan has no value at all now. You can make your move. And Mingri said to Jianda. No one knew a son better than a father, and he could tell that although Jianda had a smile on his face, he must be feeling a lot of pressure in his heart. Pengzhan was the perfect target for him to vent his anger on. Oh, brother, you have a grudge against Pengzhan? Why would you do that? Jiang Wen asked, surprised. He was calculating the pros and cons in his mind. No one would suspect him if he made a move against Pengzhan now, because Pengzhan had no value anymore. If Pengzhan had handed the money over to House An before this, people would have suspected House An for sure if something had happened to Pengzhan. Haha, big bro, this business isn't as big as yours. It's just a small business, and I had some bad blood with him before. Jianda said with a fake smile. I wanted to make a move against him before, but I let him go when I heard that you were scamming money for House An. I see. Then big bro, do you need my help? Jiang Wen had an idea. If something happened to Pengzhan now, wouldn't Mingyao have no one to rely on? Plus, Lin Yi's condition was unknown, and Jiang Wen would be Mingyao's only support. Otherwise, how was Mingyao supposed to survive alone? At that thought, he wanted to help Jianda kill Pengzhan. It'd be best if you could help. And Jianda was about to decline when he remembered the hypnotist beside Jiang Wen. I've prepared a car accident for Pengzhan, and I've already found a scapegoat. But if the hypnotist could hint to Pengzhan to commit suicide, we wouldn't have to bear too much responsibility. That'd be great. And Jianda was about to decline when he remembered the hypnotist beside Jiang Wen. No problem. Jiang Wen agreed. I'll arrange for him to go with you right now. Pengzhan sat on a bench by the roadside. There were a few times he wanted to contact his father and tell him about his troubles, but he was afraid that the old man wouldn't be able to handle it. His company had become someone else's in the blink of an eye, and no one would feel good about that. His daughter, on the other hand, was in desperate need of money for Lin Yi's medicine. How was he supposed to explain this to her? Pengzhan hated himself. Why was he so obsessed? And Mingyue had told him to stop while he was ahead. Why was he still so greedy? Chapter 1796. Chapter 1808. Car accident. Humans die for riches, birds die for food. There were plenty of examples like this in the world. If he hadn't been greedy for more money, he wouldn't have ended up with nothing at all. Young man, you seem to have something on your mind. An old man walked over to the bench beside Pengzhan and sat down. It was weird for him to call Pengzhan young man, but with his age, it wasn't too much. Haha, it's nothing. Pengzhan naturally didn't want to talk about his pain with a stranger. He only smiled faintly. If there's something on your mind, if there's something you can't solve, then go die. The old man said, minding his own business. Go die. Pengzhan paused, a trace of confusion flashing through his eyes. He stood up abruptly and started stumbling forward, charging towards a van that was speeding past. A loud bang sounded as the van sent Pengzhan's body flying, followed by the screech of the brakes. The old man stood up, not even looking at Pengzhan as he turned and left. He was the hypnotist in disguise. The police and ambulance arrived at the scene quickly, but the van driver didn't run away. Instead, he was kneeling on the ground with his head lowered. Not knowing what to do next, the ambulance took Pengzhan away and rushed to the hospital, leaving the police behind to investigate the scene. The van's dashcam showed that Pengzhan seemed to have committed suicide, crashing into the van of his own volition. At least, that was what the video showed. The police couldn't confirm the victims or the victim's identity yet, so they couldn't confirm whether or not the victim had a motive to commit suicide. They had to investigate further to determine if the driver should be held responsible. However, the results of the investigation came out quickly. Pengzhan was the former chairman of Pengzhan Industries, but his recent investments had failed, causing him to lose everything. From this, it could be seen that his motive for suicide was very clear. According to the owner of a nearby newsstand, who had witnessed the whole accident, Peng Zhan had indeed rammed into the car of his own volition. He'd been sitting on a bench by the side of the road when an old man passed by and said a few words to Peng Zhan. It was as if Peng Zhan had gone insane and rammed into the car that was coming his way. That old man was suspicious, and perhaps he'd said something to provoke Peng Zhan. Or maybe he'd failed to persuade Peng Zhan, causing him to commit suicide. However, the newsstand owner didn't remember what the old man looked like, and his attention was diverted by the accident. As for when the old man left, he didn't see it clearly. The driver of the van didn't have to bear any responsibility with the driver and the car recorder as witnesses. Peng Zhan didn't die on the spot, but he was sent to the hospital's intensive care unit. Li Fu rushed to the hospital the moment he got the news. Meng Yao, on the other hand, didn't know about all this. She was waiting for her father's call, but there was no answer. She tried again, but there was still no answer. Meng Yao didn't think much about it, thinking that Peng Zhan was in a meeting. When she was about to call again, Elder Zhang appeared in the guest room. "Have you guys made up your mind?" Elder Zhang still had the same humble smile on his face, but his words were very formal. Even if he was a heaven stage expert, he would always use the same tone when dealing with customers who came to exchange or buy heavenly treasures. This was also the way of survival in the Snow Valley. Even cultivators had to eat and drink. They also needed money to buy other natural treasures for cultivation. "Elder Zhang, can we discuss this? We don't have that much money on hand right now. Can you give us the ice spirit's fruit for my friend first, and we'll gather the money later?" Tang Yin hesitated before begging sincerely. "We'll definitely gather the money, but we can't be too fast. I'm afraid my friend won't be able to last that long. Dear customers, our Snowy Valley has always been a business deal. We don't take credit, so I'm sorry, but please leave." Elder Zhang said faintly. Elder Zhang, please, we'll give you the money. It's just that we don't have that much right now. But my friend really can't wait much longer." Tang Yin stood up and bowed deeply. "Please, Elder Zhang, please let us go. I understand how you guys feel, but we've seen this a lot in Snowy Valley over the years. If we take credit every time, wouldn't we be breaking the rules?" Elder Zhang's face didn't change at all. "Nothing can be accomplished without rules. You guys don't need to say any more. You can come by the ice spirit's fruit when you have enough money. Otherwise there's no need to talk." "Elder Zhang, I'm begging you, can you talk to the valley head?" "Thank you." Meng Yao was panicking as well, begging with Tang Yin. "Please, Elder Zhang, this is his only hope. If he misses it, I'm afraid." "Fine, I'll ask for you guys, but it's up to the valley head to decide." Elder Zhang was a kind-hearted person. Looking at these ordinary people in front of him, who did not have the slightest bit of strength, he naturally felt some admiration for them, for coming all the way to the Snow Valley to seek medicine for a cultivator. If Tang Yin, Meng Yao, and the others were practitioners, Elder Zhang wouldn't have let them in. But they weren't. Elder Zhang felt a bit of sympathy for them, seeing that they had come all the way here. "Thank you, Elder Zhang." Tang Yin's eyes flashed with gratitude. Elder Zhang nodded and didn't say anything else. He turned around and left the room. However, the results of Elder Zhang's report disappointed Tang Yin, Meng Yao, and Xu. The Valley Master only replied with 2 words. "No." Elder Zhang said regretfully, "Everyone, this is the Valley Head's wish. I can't do anything about it. Please go back." This was the Snowy Valley. They relied on selling treasures to make money. If it were the Ice Palace, Tang Yin and the others wouldn't receive such treatment. Going to the Ice Palace to buy the fire spirit's fruit, even if a normal person offered 2 billion, or even 10 billion, Bingtang wouldn't be moved. After all, the fire spirit's fruit was a necessary medicine for the Ice Palace practitioners to prevent themselves from going crazy. But the ice spirit's fruit was just a precious medicine to the Snowy Valley. It had no use for them. Hashtag. Chapter 1797. Rock Candy's sister Tang Yin and Ming Yao looked at each other. They could see the sadness in each other's eyes. But Tang Yin still didn't want to give up. If she really left like this, then Lin Yi would be in danger. That was worse than killing her. Elder Zhang, can you please introduce us to the headmaster so that we can ask for it personally? Tang Yin knew that this request was a bit over the top, but she had no other choice. Little girl, I advise you to leave. Elder Zhang smiled bitterly. Xueli had been humiliated by Bingtang and was in a bad mood. This was also the reason why Xueli rejected him, before he could even finish his sentence. Hence, from his point of view, Xueli wouldn't agree to their suggestion no matter what Tang Yun said. After all, this had never happened in the history of the Snow Valley. How could there be a debt on credit? Elder Zhang, I'm begging you. We can really gather enough money, but my friend can't wait that long. Tang Yun bowed deeply to Elder Zhang again. Then I'll have to trouble you. Little girl, we can't do anything without rules. Although I believe you, the headmaster might not. If our valley does business like this in the future, then wouldn't it be a mess? Elder Zhang said. Little girl, you might not know this, but the headmaster isn't someone you can meet just because you want to. Even if it's a disciple, they might not be able to meet the headmaster. Although Elder Zhang didn't say it clearly, the meaning behind his words was clear. With Tang Yun's group's identity, it was impossible for them to request to see the Valley Master. Tang Yun hesitated and gritted her teeth. Elder Zhang, please tell the headmaster that I am the sister of the Ice Palace's headmaster, Rock Candy. Tell her not to worry, we won't give her a single cent less. This time, my friend used the fruit, so I'll go to the Ice Palace to get the money. What? After hearing Tang Yun's words, Elder Zhang's face revealed an expression of extreme shock. He had originally thought that Tang Yun was only related to a small clan or a small sect, and came to the Snow Valley after being introduced. After all, the Snow Valley was different from the other ancient sections. Many people knew the location of the Snow Valley, and it was not a secret. We can even leave my friend here as collateral, and we'll take him away after we get the money. Tang Yin added, afraid that Elder Zhang wouldn't agree. However, Elder Zhang had a strange expression on his face. You said, you are the younger sister of the Ice Palace Master? Yes. Tang Yin nodded. Elder Zhang didn't know how to react. Wasn't Bingtang an orphan? Why was there a younger sister? What was going on? Based on what I know, the Ice Palace's palace master is an orphan. How could she have a sister? Elder Zhang asked. Just now, Tang Yin said. If Elder Zhang doesn't believe me, you can contact the Ice Palace to verify it. At first, Tang Yin didn't want to bring up this relationship, but she had no other choice. If she didn't say it now, they'd kick her out. Wait for a second, I'll go report to the Valley Master. Elder Zhang was shocked, but Tang Yun's expression didn't seem to be fake. After all, this kind of thing could be easily found out. There was no need for her to lie. If the Snow Valley found out that she was lying, then she wouldn't be able to get the ice spirit fruit. Thank you, Elder Zhang. Tang Yun heard Elder Zhang's words and relaxed. Finally, there was a chance. May I ask what your name is? Elder Zhang asked. Tang Yun. Tang Yun said. All right, wait here. After saying that, Elder Zhang walked out of the guest room again. Although Elder Zhang had regained his composure on the surface, his heart was in turmoil. These ordinary people were related to the palace master of the Ice Palace, Rock Candy? But since it involved Bingtang, Elder Zhang couldn't make the decision himself. He could only ask the Valley Master Sydney again. Valley Master Xue. After the disciple reported, Elder Zhang entered Sydney's room again. Elder Zhang, why are you back? Did they leave? Xueli felt a little strange. Elder Zhang had just asked those people about the credit, but in less than a quarter of an hour, he returned again, which made her feel a little puzzled. No, they want to see the Valley Master personally, Elder Zhang said. Valley Master Xue. However, before Elder Zhang could finish his words, Xueli's originally gloomy face became even gloomier. Her originally delicate and pretty face became a little strange. Meet me? Elder Zhang, why are you reporting this? Why didn't you just reject them? Although Sydney wasn't a sky-class late-phase peak, she had a high reputation in the valley. This had to do with her being the Grand Elder and the old Valley Master's last disciple. Valley Master Shui, that's what I told them. However, one of them claimed to be the sister of the Ice Palace's Palace Master. So I can't make a decision. That's why I'm here to ask for your opinion. Elder Zhang smiled bitterly. Ice Palace? Master? Which Palace Master? Sydney paused. Ice Palace Master Bingtang. Elder Zhang wasn't surprised by Sydney's reaction. After all, he was shocked when he first heard the news. What? She's Bingtang's sister? Sydney's expression changed slightly, but then a hint of embarrassment flashed across her face. Thinking about how Bingtang rejected her suggestion, she was pissed. You just rejected her, and now you're asking your sister to buy the fruit. Are you looking down on the valley? Yes, so Valley Master. It's better for you to meet her personally. Elder Zhang smiled bitterly. After all, we're from the same lineage as the Ice Palace. From the same lineage. If Bingtang really saw the same lineage, why would she reject our suggestion? Although Sydney was the Valley Master, she was still young. She wasn't as mature as the elders. Let them go. Don't make me angry if they stay here. Yes, I'll send them away now. Elder Zhang smiled bitterly. Sydney was venting her anger on Bingtang's sister. It would have been better if he didn't mention their relationship. Now that he mentioned it, it made Sydney even angrier. Wait! A voice was heard. Before the person arrived, the voice reached them first. Then, a figure floated over and appeared in front of Shui Li and Elder Zhang. However, when they saw who it was, Sydney and Elder Zhang's expression turned serious. They cupped their fists and bowed. Greetings, Grand Elder. Hashtag. Chapter 1798. She turned and left. What happened? I just passed by and heard that Bingtang's sister is here? The Grand Elder looked at Elder Zhang. Yes, it's like this. Elder Zhang didn't dare to hide anything, and told the Grand Elder everything that had happened in detail. Oh, what's her name? The Grand Elder asked. She said her name is Tang Yun, Elder Zhang said. Tang Yun. The Grand Elder's expression changed slightly. Although Bingtang's relationship with the hidden Tang family was a secret among the hidden houses, it wasn't much of a secret among the ancient people. More or less, the Snow Valley had their own information channels. The Grand Elder also knew that Bingtang had some relationship with the hidden Tang family. After all, their whereabouts couldn't be hidden from the Snowy Valley. If the person's surname was Tang, then she might really be Bingtang's sister. Shaoli, Elder Zhang, come with me to meet the sister of the Ice Palace Master. The Grand Elder said. Grand Elder, Bingtang just rejected our proposal. Why should we give her face? Sydney looked at the Grand Elder confusedly. Shaoli, do you think that I'm giving her face? The Grand Elder said faintly. Bingtang is also a sky-class late-phase peak, but her cultivation is weaker than mine. Why would I be afraid of her? Then you are. Sydney didn't understand, and so did Elder Li. One had to know that the Great Elder usually did not receive guests. Even if the envoys of other ancient sects or ancient families came here, the Great Elder would not show himself. Only if the sect master of a sect personally came to the Snow Valley would the Great Elder appear. But today, for Bingtang's sister, the Grand Elder was going to greet her personally. It was unbelievable. Shaoli, why did you contact Bingtang? The Grand Elder asked. Is it because of the inheritor? Sydney wasn't stupid. After the Grand Elder's reminder, she realized something and her eyes flashed with joy. Grand Elder, you mean? That's right. Since Rock Candy has a fake ice heart jade bone constitution, could her sister also have the same constitution? The Grand Elder nodded his head and said, if her sister also has the same constitution, then as long as we take her in and refine an ice heart jade bone pill for her, we can solve the troubles of our Snow Valley for many years. Alright, let's go take a look. Shui Li was a little excited, and her face was abnormally flushed. However, the coldness in her body was also raised to the extreme along with the fluctuation of her mood. The whole room was like a world of ice and snow. In an instant, the furniture in the room was covered with a layer of frost. Fortunately, Elder Li and Grand Elder both cultivated the same ice attribute mental cultivation method, so they were not affected much. If it were an ordinary person, they would have long frozen to death. Little Li, how many times have I told you that cultivating the heartless spell is to cultivate your mind? Only by maintaining a cold heart can you go further in the martial arts. You get angry easily, so it's not easy to cultivate your mind. Not being happy with material things, and not being sad for yourself, is the highest state of the cold heart. Little Li was a little embarrassed. She lowered her head in front of the Grand Elder on the stage like a child. Sorry, Grand Elder, I got angry. Forget it, who hasn't been young before? The Grand Elder shook her head helplessly. It was obvious that she loved Sydney very much. You are only in your 20s, it's normal for you to be like a child. Elder Zhang didn't say anything at the side. At this time, he could only pretend that he didn't see anything. The Grand Elder's attitude towards Sydney was very good, but it might not be the same for other people. The rules of the Snow Valley were very strict. If Elder Zhang laughed, he might be punished to patrol the valley, even if he was an elder. The Grand Elder, Sydney, and Elder Zhang came to the guest room together. The appearance of the Grand Elder and Sydney made Tang Yun a little confused. She didn't know who was the Valley Master of the Snow Valley, so she could only say, Valley Master Elder Zhang. This is our Snow Valley's Grand Elder. Elder Zhang gave Tang Yun a look and introduced. Ah, greetings, Grand Elder. Tang Yun's heart jumped. Why did the Grand Elder come over? Originally, she thought that it was not easy to see the Valley Master, but even the Grand Elder came. This made Tang Yun a little nervous. She didn't know why the Snow Valley would make such a big scene. Could it be because of the rock candy? Who is Tang Yun? The Grand Elder asked. It's me, Tang Yun said carefully. Give me your hand, let me have a look. The Grand Elder looked at Tang Yun expressionlessly and said, Ah, okay. Tang Yun didn't know what the Grand Elder meant, but she still extended her hand and gave it to the Grand Elder. The Grand Elder directly pressed on Tang Yun's wrist, as if she was checking something. Elder Zhang and Sydney didn't say anything. This made Tang Yun, Ming Yao, and Yushu a little suspicious, but they didn't dare to ask. Although the Grand Elder didn't say anything, she frowned slightly. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the Grand Elder sighed and shook her head slightly. Elder Zhang, send the guest out. Tang Yun, Ming Yao, and Yushu's faces changed. Although they didn't know why the Grand Elder suddenly wanted to send the guest out, Tang Yun didn't want to let go of this last chance. Her tears were about to fall. Grand Elder, Valley Master, please help us, I beg you, 1 billion. We will definitely give you 1 billion. The Great Elder didn't even want to say a word. Sometimes things were just that realistic. If the Great Elder found out that Tang Yun really had a fake ice heart and jade bone physique, she would probably try her best to please her and make her stay. However, Tang Yun wasn't. In her eyes, she had no value at all. She was no different from an ordinary person. Please, I beg you. At this moment, Tang Yun thought of something. Back then, Xiao Xiao was chosen by the Ice Palace because of her cold body. She became the heir of the Ice Palace. And it was because of this that Xiao Xiao's life could continue. But if Xiao Xiao didn't have a cold body, then things would be different. Fortunately, Ling Yi's perseverance touched Elder Qing, and she also found out about Xiao Xiao's cold body. Before, the Grand Elder was probably testing her body, but Tang Yun naturally knew that she didn't have a cold body. She didn't have an ice heart and jade bones. Even a fake one like Bingtang didn't have one. Otherwise, Bingtang would have found it long ago, and the Grand Elder wouldn't have had to check. #target =_ blank. Chapter 1799. Her hair and eyelashes were covered in ice crystals and snowflakes, but Tang Yun didn't move at all. She knelt in front of the entrance. She believed that her sincerity would move the Grand Elder and the Valley Master. Yun sis. Are you alright? Yushu would get out of the car every once in a while to check on Tang Yun. She was afraid that Tang Yun would freeze to death. Normal people wouldn't be able to endure this cold weather. I'm fine. Tang Yun's voice was weak, but firm. Oh, it's so cold. Can you take it? Shu asked hesitantly. It's fine. I told you that I'm quite cold resistant. I used to live in a bungalow, and it was cold in the winter too, haha. Tang Yun smiled bitterly. She was indeed freezing, and her body was stiff. Kneeling for so long was something normal people wouldn't be able to take. Even if Tang Yun was cold resistant, how could she relax in this kind of weather? Shu, on the other hand, couldn't take it anymore. Yun sis, I'll be going back then. Take care of yourself. We'll think of something else if you can't handle it. Linny said with a smile on his face. Alright Yun sis. Okay. Tang Yun gritted her teeth and took a deep breath. Linny, I can do it. I've never been able to do anything for you. But this time, I can proudly tell you that I'm a strong girl. Yushu went back to the car and saw Mingyao's wet eyes. Yao sis, do you think Yun sis will freeze to death if she keeps this up? Don't jinx it, St. Hall. Sanctuary. Mingyao glared at Shu. Shu quickly covered her mouth and changed her words. No, Prophet Shu needs to make a new prophecy. Not only can Yun sis not freeze to death, she'll freeze even more. Mingyao didn't know what to say. Freeze even more? What kind of logic was that? In the snowy valley, Elder Zhang heard the disciples' report and sighed helplessly. He was this month's class elder, so he was in charge of everything in the valley. He knew Tang Yun's situation like the back of his hand. Although Elder Zhang didn't order the patrolling disciples to chase Tang Yun and the others away, he still couldn't help but worry. He hesitated for a moment and walked towards the Grand Elder's room. Coincidentally, Sydney was also in the Grand Supreme Elder's room. Elder Zhang hurriedly greeted them one by one. Elder Zhang, what brings you here to this old lady? The Great Elder nodded and asked. Since Elder Zhang was here, he was naturally looking for her, the Great Elder, and not for Sydney. Grand Supreme Elder, that Tang Yun is still kneeling at the entrance of the snowy valley. Elder Zhang said and hesitated. No matter what, she's the sister of the Ice Palace's Palace Master Bingtang. If something happens to her in the snowy valley, then the snowy valley won't be able to escape the blame, right? Elder Zhang, you're the class elder. You're in charge of patrolling the snowy valley. Since you saw her there, why didn't you let her leave? The Grand Supreme Elder asked back. Elder Zhang's face reddened. He was kind-hearted and saw that these children weren't easy to deal with. He wanted to help them, so he told the Grand Supreme Elder about it. He didn't expect the Grand Supreme Elder to see through his intentions. However, Elder Zhang still said, Grand Supreme Elder, she's kneeling outside the mountain gate. Strictly speaking, that place isn't the Snowy Valley's territory. Also, according to the rules of the Snowy Valley, we can't attack ordinary people. Tang Yun isn't a practitioner, so I can't force her away. If that's the case, you already said that that place isn't the Snowy Valley's territory. If an ordinary person wants to commit suicide there, what does that have to do with the Snowy Valley? The Grand Supreme Elder said coldly. When she freezes to death, then you can come and report to me. Yes, then I'll go do my work first. Elder Zhang smiled helplessly and turned to leave. After Elder Zhang left, Sydney frowned and said, Grand Supreme Elder, although Bingtang rejected our suggestion, if her sister really freezes to death here, wouldn't that be inappropriate? She's not an idiot. Since she's here to save people, how could she lose her life? The Grand Supreme Elder said faintly, It's rare for an ordinary person to last one day and one night. But just watch, if she really doesn't want to die, she'll leave tomorrow. But if she really wants to die and doesn't leave by tomorrow, then I'll send her away. Yes, Sydney nodded. The next day, Tang Yun was still kneeling in the snow. She only drank some water and ate some biscuits to replenish her energy, but she still knelt there. Tang Yun's endurance surprised Mingyao and Yushu. If it was a normal person, wouldn't they turn into a popsicle after being frozen for 1 day and 2 nights? Although Tang Yun was in some pain, it didn't seem to be a big deal. That's amazing. Yushu just gave Tang Yun some biscuits and water, and went back to the car amazed. Yun sis really didn't die. Prophet Shu's prophecy worked. Amazing. I think you're pretty amazing too, not dying from the heat after so many days. Mingyao was used to it. Ever since Lin came to the villa, there had been too many weird things happening. First it was Xiao Xiao's cold body, then Shu's heat conductivity, and now Tang Yun's cold resistance. Oh, that's true. Yushu nodded. Elder Zhang received a report from the patrolling disciples that Tang Yun could still eat and drink. He was shocked, but he was relieved that Tang Yun wasn't dead. But thinking about what the Grand Supreme Elder said yesterday, Elder Zhang decided not to disturb her anymore. The rules of the Snowy Valley were very strict, and Elder Zhang didn't want to trouble the Grand Supreme Elder with the same thing. Since the Grand Supreme Elder said to report to him when Tang Yun died, why would Elder Zhang go to the Grand Supreme Elder before that? Unless there was something important in the valley that he needed to report to the Grand Supreme Elder. On the third day, Tang Yun was still kneeling on the snowy ground, with a thick layer of snow on her body. However, to show her sincerity, Tang Yun didn't wipe the snow off her body, allowing it to stay on her body. Only when Yushu brought her food and mineral water would the snow on her hair fall off a little. Elder Zhang, Tang Yun hasn't left yet. She's still kneeling in front of the mountain. A patrolling disciple reported to Elder Zhang. Target =_blank. Chapter 1800. Oh, she hasn't left yet? Elder Zhang was startled. It had been 3 days. Even a normal practitioner wouldn't be able to take it, unless they were a water practitioner. But Tang Yun, a normal person, was able to kneel for 3 days. Elder Zhang found it hard to believe. In these 3 days, did she go back to the carriage to rest? Reporting to Elder Zhang, we didn't see her go back to rest. With our eyesight, she didn't move at all except for eating a little compressed biscuits and drinking a little mineral water every morning. The patrolling disciple said. Elder Zhang nodded in surprise. This patrolling disciple was also an Earth class master. If he could tell that Tang Yun hadn't gone back to rest, then she hadn't rested at all. However, Tang Yun's endurance surprised him. He wanted to talk to the elder again, but when he remembered what the Grand Elder said, he shook his head and sighed. Then he went back to work. The 4th day, the 5th day, the 10th day. Every day, the patrolling disciple would report to Elder Zhang about Tang Yun's situation. Elder Zhang's initial shock had turned into confusion. Was Tang Yun a normal person? She hadn't frozen to death after so many days? Was she a sky-class master? One had to know that in this snowy valley, even an Earth-class master would need to use some medicine to train. Tang Yun only ate some biscuits and water. How could she be fine? Did she have some kind of treasure on her that could keep her warm? But thinking of this possibility, Elder Zhang shook his head. Tang Yun knew the rules of the Snowy Valley. Treasures could be bought with money, but they could also be traded with other treasures. If Tang Yun had something like that, she would have taken it out a long time ago. Actually, what Elder Zhang didn't know was that although Tang Yun looked fine, her entire body was frozen. She ate less and less biscuits and water every day because her stomach was frozen. Her digestion was getting slower and slower. Until this morning, Tang Yun didn't eat anything, because she wasn't hungry anymore. Meng Yao's face showed deep worry. Tang Yun's situation was getting worse and worse. It looked like Tang Yun could hold on. But as time went on, Tang Yun seemed to be at the end of the road. She could die at any time. But no matter how hard she and Yushu tried to persuade her, Tang Yun insisted on kneeling there, not moving at all. Sigh, could it be that the people of Snow Valley all have hearts of stone? Meng Yao wasn't just worried about Tang Yun. She was also worried about Lin Yi. Lin Yi's body was getting hotter and hotter. Now there was no need to turn on the heater in the car. The whole car was warmed by Lin Yi's body temperature. But Meng Yao knew that if this continued, he would reach his limit even with Shu's help. At that time, even the ice spirit fruit would not be able to suppress the heat inside Lin Yi's body. At that time it would be too late. Holy Church, persevere, persevere. I must persevere. This was the cry in Tang Yun's heart. She couldn't feel her legs anymore. And she couldn't feel her body. She could only move her hands a little. And she even felt that her thoughts had become rigid. A few days ago, she could still remember all the sweet moments she had with Lin Yi to cheer herself up. But now, She couldn't even think about it anymore. On the 15th day, Tang Yun felt that she couldn't hold on anymore. Yes, she really couldn't. She felt that her vision was getting blurry, and her brain couldn't think like a normal person anymore. Facing Yushu's question, she could only say, "N," to show that she was still alive. But Tang Yun herself knew that she was probably going to die soon. Was this what it felt like before death? Tang Yun, on the other hand, didn't seem to feel the pain at all. Slowly, her consciousness started to blur, and her entire body started to relax. It was as if the soul had left its shell, and she felt like her body was floating in the air. At this moment, the scene in front of her changed from blurry to clear. Tang Yun was surprised to find that she was standing at the highest point of the valley. At this moment, she was looking down at the entire valley. She was at the center of the valley, with the majestic mountain gate, the steep cliffs, the snowy ground, and the warm sunlight. All of these seemed to form a beautiful picture, and Tang Yun had a strange feeling in her heart, as if she had melded into the picture. Tang Yun took a step forward and slowly walked in the air. The snow fell around her, but it seemed like it didn't touch her at all. Instead, it melted the moment it touched her body. At that moment, Tang Yun felt like she was a goddess. Everything in the valley seemed to be born for her. She reached out her hand, and the snow in front of her turned into a small whirlpool, circling between her white hands, as if it was performing something for her, trying to please her. Her stiff body seemed to have disappeared at this moment. She couldn't feel the bone-chilling cold anymore. The snow didn't seem to affect her at all. Instead, the sunlight in the sky gave Tang Yun a warm and comfortable feeling. Was this the last radiance of the setting sun before death? Tang Yun thought about it. Many people would see their soul leave their body before they died, floating far away. That was what the ghost story said. Many people who were saved from the brink of death felt the same way before they died. But whether it was as comfortable as it was now, Tang Yun wasn't sure. She felt a sense of bliss in her heart, and this feeling grew stronger and stronger as time passed. In a trance, Tang Yun felt that the tall and majestic entrance to the valley suddenly became smaller and smaller, and the cliff on the other side of the valley became nothing in her eyes. At this moment, she seemed to have become the master of this place, the ruler of this place. Even the Grand Elder and the Valley Master, at this moment, Tang Yun's heart didn't have the fear from before. This was a very wonderful feeling. She was no longer that insignificant girl from before, but had become a powerful goddess. Tang Yun reached out her hand again. She could clearly feel that the snow valley's wind and snow seemed to have become part of her. She casually waved her hand, and the wind and snow followed her movements. Chapter 1801. Snowy Valley shocked. Tang Yun closed her eyes, enjoying this moment of warmth, this moment of happiness, this moment of beauty. It was said that people would feel happiness at the moment of death. This was probably what it felt like right now, right? Although Tang Yun closed her eyes, she seemed to be able to sense the situation around her. It was as if everything in this snowy valley was clearly in her mind. It was as if she was the valley, and the valley was her. The valley, the snow, the sunlight, they were all a part of her. With a wave of her hand or a step, the wind and snow around her would resonate with her. In the valley, there was an elder meeting. Today was the last day of Elder Zhang's shift. According to the rules, she had to summarize the work of the past month and hand it over to the next elder on duty. In the Snow Valley, there was a system where the elders were on duty. Every elder was on duty for a month to deal with the affairs of the valley. Only when the elders were unable to make a decision would they ask the Valley Master and the Grand Elder. In this way, not only did it reduce the workload of the Valley Master and the elders on the stage, it also allowed them to have enough time to cultivate. It also allowed the other elders who were not on duty to cultivate in peace. Of course, this was also the special situation of the Snow Valley, because the Snow Valley relied on the sale and exchange of heavenly treasures to survive. If it was any other ancient sect, even if the palace lord was fully in charge of the sect's affairs, he would not be as busy as the Snow Valley. After all, just like the Ice Palace, They didn't have any contact with the outside world. Even if it was a trial, it would only be held once every few years. Bingtang had to deal with some normal matters, but it didn't affect her training. This is what I've been dealing with for the past month. Speaking up to this point, Elder Zhang changed the topic and said to the Grand Supreme Elder, Grand Supreme Elder, there's one more thing I want to report. Speak. The Grand Elder said. The sect master's sister hasn't left yet. Elder Zhang's face turned strange as he said that. How did Tang Yun survive until now? What? Hasn't left yet? The Grand Elder froze. She said that she would report to her after Tang Yun froze to death, but she was just saying it casually. From her point of view, Tang Yun wouldn't be able to stand the cold for 2 days and would leave on her own. Elder Zhang didn't report to her, meaning that Tang Yun didn't freeze to death and left. Otherwise, how could a normal person kneel in the snow for more than 10 days? Wouldn't she be dead already? Hearing that Tang Yun was still kneeling in front of the gate, the Grand Elder's expression became strange. She hasn't died yet? No, but according to the patrolling disciples, I'm afraid she won't be able to hold on for another 2 days. Since yesterday, she hasn't been eating anymore. Elder Zhang recounted everything that had happened in the past half a month. Elder Zhang could only use this opportunity to tell the Grand Elder about Tang Yin's situation. Even if he sympathized with her and wanted to help, he didn't have the chance. After he finished, Elder Zhang added, Grand Elder, it seems like Tang Yin really wants to die. Even if we don't care about her, she is still the sister of the sect master of the Ice Palace, right? You're saying that she hasn't warmed up in the carriage for the past 15 days? She's been kneeling in the snow, eating and sleeping? The Grand Elder was shocked. It's like this. The patrolling disciples saw it with their own eyes. Elder Zhang said, Let's go, we'll go take a look. The Grand Elder frowned, as if she was thinking about something. Grand Elder, are you touched by her persistence? Sydney was surprised. Before, the Grand Elder told her to cultivate her heart, but now she started to sympathize with Tang Yin. Touched? The Grand Elder shook his head. The Grand Elder's answer stunned Elder Zhang, Sydney, and the other elders. If he wasn't touched, then why would he go take a look? Was it really because of rock candy that he was afraid that Tang Yun would die here? 15 days, don't you think it's weird? The Supreme Elder looked at the puzzled crowd and said, Before you advance to the heaven rank, without taking any energy pills, who could kneel in the snow for 15 days without dying? Everyone shook their heads when they heard the Supreme Elder's words. Before advancing to the heaven rank, even an earth rank powerhouse wouldn't be able to kneel in a world of ice and snow for so long, let alone an ordinary person. Wasn't it like this during the Ice Palace trial? Other than Lin Yi, which of the mystic masters who came to participate in the trial didn't bring enough elixirs? Although energy pills weren't rare, they could replenish energy to fight hunger. Even Yu Bing was the same. Lin Yi was a special case. He had the jade pendant as a source of energy, so he didn't need those pills to maintain his stamina. It was also because of this reason that Aunt Qing and Bingtang thought it was weird. You mean to say her constitution? Elder Zhang's heart skipped a beat as he calmly asked. There's an old saying, something must be wrong. The Grand Elder said. Since you can't do it, how did she do it? But Grand Elder, didn't you check already? There's nothing special about her body. She doesn't even have a normal Yin body, let alone a fake ice heart jade bone. Sydney asked curiously. That's right, she isn't. The Grand Elder said. If she really is like what she said, that she is Bingtang's sister, do you think Bingtang didn't check secretly? That's true, then you mean? Sydney didn't understand. The founder of the sect recorded 3 types of body types that are suitable for Snow Valley. The Grand Elder said slowly. Among them, the rarest is the Yin body type, which is the inheritor of the Ice Palace. However, the Yin body type is more suitable for the Ice Palace, but for us it's useless. It's not as suitable as the second type, the Ice Heart Jade Bone type, because the founder of Snow Valley had this type of body type. So she created the emotionless chant to cultivate an ice heart. Although the Yin body type has more cold energy than the Ice Heart Jade Bone type, it can't be used to its full potential in Snow Valley. I'm afraid this is also why Bingtang rejected us. Because it's more suitable for the inheritor of the Een body type to stay in the ice palace. Hashtag. Chapter 1802. Inheritance of the Snowy Valley. Hearing the great elder's words, everyone nodded to show their agreement. The third kind of body constitution is the ordinary Een body constitution. Little Lee and I have this kind of body constitution, but my body constitution is not as good as Little Lee's. It can only be said to be sloppy and ordinary. Being able to cultivate to the peak of heaven rank is purely by luck. I'm afraid it's impossible to cultivate to the peak of heaven rank and cross that legendary road. The great elder smiled bitterly and continued. Now let's talk about the Ice Heart Jade Bone Body Constitution. Apart from the normal Ice Heart Jade Bone Body Constitution, the Ice Heart Jade Bone Body Constitution can also be divided into two branches. One is the fake Ice Heart Jade Bone Body Constitution, which is the Rock Sugar Body Constitution. This kind of body constitution is not pure, but with the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill, it can bring out the effect of the Ice Heart Jade Bone Body Constitution. And the other is the hidden Ice Heart Jade Bone Body Constitution. When the great elder mentioned this kind of body constitution, Sydney's expression changed slightly. She thought of a possibility, and then her eyes widened in disbelief. But the other great elders were at a loss, because the only people who could come into contact with the ancestors' notes were those who had practiced the Heartless Secrets mental cultivation method. These people were the great elder, the valley master, and their direct disciples. As for the others, although they also practiced the water and fog mental cultivation methods, as long as they had an ordinary water body constitution, it was fine. There was no need for those special body constitutions, so it was impossible for these people to check the ancestors' notes. The hidden Ice Heart Jade Bone Body Constitution is a kind of body constitution that is purer than the Ice Heart Jade Bone Body Constitution. The ancestor had this kind of body constitution. The great elder explained slowly. This kind of body constitution, as the name suggests, is usually a hidden body constitution. Not to mention us, even the ancestor himself couldn't recognize it. This kind of physique could only be found by chance and not sought. Only after experiencing an extremely cold environment, when the body's potential reached its limit, could it suddenly be released. Back then, the founder of the sect also came to the Snow Valley. Under the harsh weather of the Snow Valley, at the moment when his life's potential was at its limit, he unintentionally activated his hidden Ice Heart Jade Bone physique. He comprehended the inheritance of the Snow Valley and discovered an ancient relic in the Snow Valley. Then, he stepped on the path of cultivation and founded the Snow Valley sect. Before that, the founder was just an ordinary water cultivator from that place. His strength was only at the early phase of the golden class. That means, Tang Yin might be. Elder Zhang's eyes widened in disbelief. I'm just guessing and suspecting that ordinary people would have died a long time ago. Why didn't she die? The Supreme Elder said. As for whether it's this kind of physique, I really don't know. Huh? As soon as the Grand Elder's voice fell, he felt that something was wrong. The expressions of the other elders and Xueli, the Valley Master, also changed slightly at this moment. Everyone felt a powerful fluctuation of true qi, and it was the kind of true strength. It was as if the entire heaven and earth spiritual qi in the Snow Valley had been mobilized at this moment. This feeling made everyone feel extremely shocked. Even when Sydney broke through to Heaven stage, and the Grand Elder broke through to the peak of the late stage of Heaven stage, they did not cause such a huge phenomenon. In the next moment, the bell of the Snow Valley was rung. This was the bell that the patrolling disciples would only ring when the Snow Valley encountered an emergency. However, this bell had not been rung for many years. This was because the things that the Snow Valley had encountered over the years had never been serious enough to ring the bell. Let's go. The Grand Elder shouted and flew out. All the elders in Sydney were also Heaven stage experts. At this moment, they all followed the Grand Elder out of the meeting hall and came outside. In the Snow Valley, all the heaven and earth spiritual qi rushed towards one direction, including the cold wind and snow. At this moment, they also rushed towards that direction. This kind of strange situation. It was no wonder that the disciples in the Snow Valley would ring the bell. This was because the development of the situation had exceeded their imagination and control. When the Grand Elder saw this strange phenomenon, she immediately flew towards the center of the heaven and earth spiritual chi. Behind her, the others also followed closely. At this time, this phenomenon not only shocked the people of the Snow Valley, but also Chu Mingyao and Shu, because they saw that Tang Yun, who was originally covered in snow, suddenly stood up from the snow. The snow on her body disappeared in an instant. Tang Yun's body also emitted an untouchable holy light. At this moment, Tang Yun was like a snow fairy. Her body slowly left the ground and stretched her body under the sunlight. The snowflakes from the sky didn't fall on her anymore. Instead, they circled around her body and formed a beautiful whirlpool. Holy shit, Yun sis ascended in the day. Yushu looked at the clean Tang Yun in the sky and said in shock, Prophet Shu is really awesome. The colder Yun sis gets. Chu Mingyao was speechless after hearing Yushu's words. What nonsense ascending in the day. Did she read too much Xianxia? But after Yushu said that the colder Yun got, Mingyao didn't get angry at all. This strange phenomenon, Chu Mingyao didn't know whether it was good or bad. She didn't know what would happen next. But no matter what, Tang Yun didn't seem to be frozen to death. This was what Mingyao was most relieved about. In a blink of an eye, the Grand Elder came to the center of the whirlpool formed by the heaven and earth spiritual chi. She looked at Tang Yun in the sky in shock and said after a while, There's no mistake. There's no mistake. It really is the hidden heart of Ice Jade body. Really? Although Sydney and the elders were also shocked by the scene in front of them, after hearing the Grand Elder's words, there was a trace of joy in their tone. Of course it's true. The Grand Elder nodded. Plus, when she awakened the hidden heart of Ice Jade body, she received the inheritance of the Snow Valley and understood the essence of the Snow Valley's heaven and earth spiritual chi. She can use the water element's heaven and earth spiritual chi as she pleases. This is the characteristic of the inheritor. Doesn't that mean that our Snow Valley also has an inheritor? Shueli was very excited after hearing this. All this time, the inheritor of the Snow Valley had been the most important thing to her and the elders. Especially after hearing that the Ice Palace had found an inheritor, the Snow Valley was even more anxious. This was why the entire Ice Palace was so shocked and excited. #target=_blank. Chapter 1803. Attitude change. Although the Ice Palace and Snow Valley's founders were from the same lineage, both of them were from that place, and both of them had flourished before. They were both one of the 4 ancient sects, and one of the leading sects of the Sky Class meeting. But before the Sky Class meeting, without an inheritor, they would be on the path of decline. Seeing the Ice Palace pick up a treasure, Snow Valley could only feel envy and jealousy. But at this moment, everyone was truly happy and joyful. What the Ice Palace had, Snow Valley had too. Of course, they were too excited, and never considered whether or not Tang Yun would stay and become a part of Snow Valley. Just as everyone was getting excited, Tang Yun naturally didn't know that she had attracted the attention of all the big shots of the Snow Valley. At this moment, with her as the center, more and more spiritual energy was being attracted to her, gathering around her body. Mingyao and Yushu, naturally, saw the Grand Elder and Elder Zhang, as well as Sydney and a few people they didn't know. They were worried about Tang Yun, not knowing what had happened to her. They wanted to get off the car to ask the Grand Elder and the others, May I ask what's going on? Did Yun sis ascend to the heavens? Yushu asked the Grand Elder. She was the oldest here, and had the highest position. Naturally, Yushu would ask her first. The Grand Elder was startled. She was too excited before, and didn't even notice Yushu's approach. Luckily, it wasn't an enemy. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. The only thing that could make a Sky Class master so focused was the situation in front of them. Shadash, the Grand Elder, made a shushing gesture at Yushu. afraid that she would affect Tang Yun's acceptance of the inheritance. This was a once-in-a-lifetime event. Even if Xue Gu found a cultivator with a fake icy heart jade bone physique, who had consumed the ice heart jade bone pill, or even found a cultivator with a real icy heart jade bone physique, to accept the inheritance, they would have to go through arduous cultivation and personal enlightenment before they could accept the inheritance. One had to know that the inheritance was a type of resonance between the body and the Snow Valley. It didn't mean that one could accept the inheritance whenever and wherever they wanted. Although one's physique was suitable, one would definitely be able to receive the inheritance. However, the exact time of receiving the inheritance depended on one's own comprehension. It wasn't something that could be achieved just by thinking about it. Tang Yun's hidden ice heart jade bone physique was a rare occurrence. Only the founder of the sect had such a miraculous encounter, so the Grand Elder was afraid that Yushu would affect Tang Yun's acceptance of the inheritance. What's going on? Is Yin Sis in danger? She's been kneeling for 15 days now. Can't you guys give us an ice spirit fruit? Yushu asked. You. The Grand Elder's eyes widened as he thought to himself. I told you not to speak, so why are you still speaking? She was so angry that she wanted to slap Yushu to death. If this ruined the inheritance, then the Grand Elder wouldn't even have time to cry. But then she remembered the relationship between Yushu and Tang Yun, and forcibly stopped the thought of killing Yushu. If she killed Yushu, then Tang Yun would become a huge enemy of the Snow Valley. She wouldn't stay in the Snow Valley anymore, and would go to the Ice Palace to train and come back for revenge. And so the Grand Elder suppressed her anger and spoke to Yushu in a low voice. She's fine. Don't say anything. I'll give you as many ice spirit fruits as you want. I'll give them all to you. But you have to shut up first. Oh. Yushu let out a breath of relief after hearing the Grand Elder's words. It was fortunate that the Grand Elder didn't slap Shu to death. Otherwise, it wouldn't just be the Ice Palace. That sect wouldn't just let this go. Mengyao, on the other hand, was a little surprised at the Grand Elder's sudden change in attitude. She looked at the goddess-like Tang Yun in the sky, deep in thought. The sun slowly moved towards the west, and slowly set, forming a beautiful glow in the sky. Tang Yun bathed in the glow, her body glowing with a pure and bright light. No one moved. Shu heard that the Grand Elder could give Lin Yi the ice spirit fruits, and she stopped as well. As far as she was concerned, the Grand Elder, the most powerful person in the sect, wouldn't lie. If she said that Tang Yun Sis was fine, then she must be fine. The snowy valley at dusk was exceptionally beautiful. The white snow was reflected red. But no one was in the mood to appreciate this beautiful scenery. The gorgeous sunset seemed to attract everyone's attention. They tried their best to make the sunset more beautiful, but it was in vain, because everyone's eyes were on Tang Yun. And at this moment, Tang Yun was the most beautiful. The sun finally set. When the last ray of gold disappeared from the horizon, Tang Yun slowly landed on the ground. The spiritual energy around her gradually dissipated, and all the strange phenomena disappeared at this moment. Tang Yun slowly stepped on the snow and slowly opened her eyes. She murmured bitterly, Am I dead? Is this heaven? Phuh. At this moment, the Grand Elder and the other elders, including Sydney, let out a long breath. It seemed that Tang Yun had finished accepting the inheritance. At this moment, she had understood the entire inheritance of the Snow Valley, and had become the inheritor of the mist element. What do you think? What did you understand? The Grand Elder asked urgently. Tang Yun froze, and looked at the row of people in front of her. There was the Grand Elder, Elder Zhang and Sydney, as well as some people she didn't know. Most importantly, Mengyao Shu and Lin Yi were all there. Were they all dead? This thought flashed through Tang Yun's mind, and she immediately shook her head to deny it. This was impossible. How could everyone be dead? Since everyone was alive, then she wasn't in heaven, which meant that she wasn't dead. I'm not dead. Tang Yun looked at everyone in front of her, surprised. Sister Yin, not only are you not dead, but you've ascended. You're so cold. Yushu said happily. Shu, don't talk nonsense. Mengyao frowned, and stopped Yushu from talking nonsense. She turned to Tang Yun. Yun, You're not dead. But something strange happened to you. The Grand Elder should be able to explain it. Although Meng Yao could vaguely guess that what happened to Tang Yun had something to do with the Grand Elder's change of attitude, she wasn't sure what exactly happened. Hashtag. Chapter 1804. Snowy Valley. I didn't say anything, it's like I'm strong. Yushu said. Grand Elder? Tang Yun wanted to ask about the strange things that happened to her. But she suddenly remembered the purpose of her trip. She suppressed her curiosity and said, Grand Elder, Valley Master Shui, Elder Zhang, and all the elders, I beg you, please give me an ice spirit fruit first. I will definitely give you 1 billion yuan. Tang Yun didn't know what to say. With that, Tang Yun was about to kneel on the ground. After all, it was a rare chance for Tang Yun to meet the Grand Elder and Valley Master Shui. If she missed this chance, she wouldn't have the chance to talk to them anymore. Don't. The Grand Elder quickly held Tang Yun. She wanted Tang Yun to stay in Snowy Valley. How could she let Tang Yun beg for something so small? The Grand Elder supported Tang Yun and said generously, The ice spirit fruit is not a problem. But before that, let's talk about something else? Something else? Tang Yun paused, not understanding what he meant. Everyone, please follow us to the Snowy Valley's meeting hall? The Grand Elder was thinking about how to make Tang Yun stay. But it seemed like using the ice spirit fruit as the price to force Tang Yun to stay wasn't impossible. Although this was a bit despicable, it was different from the ice palace keeping Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao's body was special, and she needed to stay in the ice palace to be healed. Tang Yun, on the other hand, was different. She was here to ask for medicine, and one ice spirit fruit was only 1 billion. Using 1 billion to exchange for an heir of Snowy Valley, it was a great deal. But despicable was just despicable. The Grand Elder trained in heartless arts, and she had no sympathy. In her eyes, there were only benefits and strength. So although she was polite to Tang Yun, that was only if Tang Yun could stay. If Tang Yun didn't agree, then there was no point in talking about the ice spirit fruit. Okay. Tang Yun nodded after some hesitation. She didn't know why the Grand Elder paid so much attention to her. But it must have something to do with what happened before. No matter what happened before, it was a good thing. The few of them arrived at the meeting hall of the Snow Valley. Under the astonished gazes of the Snow Valley disciples, the door of the meeting hall was tightly shut. One should know that the conference hall was a forbidden area for everyone other than the great elders, and valley masters. Now that these 4 strangers were allowed to enter the conference hall, it was a huge rumor. However, the Grand Elder did not feel that she was breaking any rules. If Tang Yun stayed in the Snow Valley, she could even give up the position of the Grand Elder to Tang Yun. In the eyes of these heaven-rank experts, these positions were nothing. Furthermore, at their level of cultivation, no one would be jealous of Tang Yun. This was because one's physique was not something that could be obtained through jealousy. At this level, everyone knew that if one's physique was not good, no matter how hard they trained, they would not be able to advance as fast as someone with a good physique. So if Tang Yun joined Snowy Valley, then no matter how strong she would still be a part of Snowy Valley. They would only be happy. Of course, if she joined Ice Palace, then they would only be jealous of her. Everyone took their seats in the meeting hall. Tang Yun was a little fearful. This was the first time she had seen such a scene. Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, had seen a lot of things, so they weren't afraid. This old one is very clear about your goal. You want the ice spirit holy fruit? No problem, this old one can give it to you. Moreover, it won't cost you a single cent. I can also help you concoct a prescription that can be used together with the ice spirit holy fruit to cure your cultivation deviation. Thank you, Grand Elder. Tang Yun was a little surprised after hearing the Grand Elder's words, but she was still happy. After all, Linny could finally be saved. Don't thank me first. I'm not finished yet. The Grand Elder said faintly. What I'm agreeing to, there are conditions. Listen to them first, then decide if you want to trade or not. Grand Elder, please speak. Tang Yun's heart skipped a beat. There was no free lunch in this world. But what conditions did the Grand Elder want? He didn't even want money. You must stay in Snowy Valley. The Grand Elder looked at Tang Yun and said word by word, stay here, become a practitioner, and I will fulfill my promise. Me? Stay here? Tang Yun wasn't too surprised after hearing the Grand Elder's words. She had already guessed something. If it wasn't for that strange phenomenon, the Grand Elder wouldn't even show up, let alone agree to these conditions. The reason why she agreed to these conditions was probably related to the phenomenon that appeared on her body. Could it be that she had unknowingly gotten some benefits? That's right, the Grand Elder said. You will stay in Snowy Valley and become a part of Snowy Valley. This is the condition. Grand Elder, you're saying that I can train? Tang Yun asked after some hesitation. That's right. The Grand Elder nodded. You will stay here to train, of course. Then, what level can I become? Tang Yun was a little moved. Yes, she was really moved. If she could become a master, then she wouldn't be a flower vase anymore. She wouldn't need Lin Yi to protect her all the time. At that time, she'd be able to be like Xiao Xiao, staying by his side forever. Only a practitioner could extend their lifespan. This had always been Tang Yun's dream. Level. Haha, at least Sky Class Late Phase Peak. The Grand Elder smiled faintly. If possible, I will surpass this level and become an even stronger master. Sky Class Late Phase Peak. Chapter 1805. Tang Yun's face was a little flushed from the excitement. The Grand Elder's words shocked her. She didn't think that she'd become an inheritor. Didn't that mean she was on the same level as Xiao Xiao? If you agree, then our deal will go into effect immediately, the Grand Elder said. Otherwise, I won't stop you. Heart Tang Yun smiled bitterly. The Grand Elder might have said that. But did she have a choice? What was her purpose in coming here? Now that there was a chance to save Lin Yi and train at the same time, why wouldn't she agree? How could I not agree now that things have come to this? Tang Yun looked at Mingyao and Yushu. She didn't want them to leave, and it'd be hard to see Lin Yi again if she stayed in Snowy Valley. Who knew when they'd meet again? But at the same time, this was a rare opportunity. If Tang Yun missed it, she wouldn't be able to save Lin Yi. Even if that didn't happen, she wouldn't want to miss this opportunity. After all, becoming a practitioner had always been her dream. However, although the people present had a certain degree of confidence that Tang Yun would agree, after hearing Tang Yun's affirmative answer, their faces were still filled with joy, revealing a relaxed expression. Heart, since you've agreed, then I'll open up the ancestral hall and accept a disciple on behalf of the founder. The Grand Elder said, your constitution is extraordinary, and only the founder has the same constitution as you. I'll accept a disciple on behalf of the founder, and while you're my disciple in name, you'll be the Grand Elder of Snowy Valley after you finish your apprenticeship. You'll be on the same level as me and Li. Tang Yun's face flushed red from excitement. She didn't expect that Xiao Xiao would get such good treatment in the Ice Palace, and she would get the same treatment in Snowy Valley. She couldn't help but ask, Grand Elder, may I ask, what constitution do I have? And what happened to me before? Didn't you check my constitution before? There's nothing special about it. Your physique is the hidden icy heart jade bone physique. Forget about me. Even if the founder of the sect was here, he might not be able to detect it. As the Grand Elder spoke, she told Tang Yun about Tang Yun's physique and what had happened before. Now that Tang Yun had agreed to join the Snow Valley, she wouldn't hide it from Tang Yun anymore. Tang Yun was shocked after hearing the Grand Elder's words. She didn't know that she had this kind of physique. It could only be activated under special circumstances. No wonder it wasn't detected before. If it wasn't for the coincidence, Tang Yun wouldn't have known that she had this unique physique for the rest of her life. Oh, I told you, Yin Yun's sis gets stronger the longer she freezes. Her special constitution will come out. Yushu said. Holy Church, you could say that. The Grand Elder nodded in agreement. Indeed, this sort of constitution can only be awakened in an environment as cold as this. Then, how long will it take for me to graduate? After that, can I go back? Tang Yin was most concerned about this question. If she stayed here, how long would it take for her to see Lin Yi? What do you mean by going back? The Grand Elder asked in return. It's, how long will it take for me to see him freely? Tang Yin pointed at Lin Yi beside Yushu. See him? I'm afraid that's impossible, the Grand Elder said. Why? Tang Yin was shocked and quickly asked. I remember that you said that the two of you are lovers, right? The Supreme Elder asked. Yes. Tang Yin nodded fearfully. The icy heart jade bone cultivates an icy heart, and the mental cultivation method you cultivate is also called the Heartless Codex mental cultivation method. The so-called Heartless Codex mental cultivation method is heartless. If you have feelings in your heart, it will be a huge hindrance to your practice. The Great Elder said. So in order to let you smoothly cultivate to the peak of heaven rank late phase, I will give you a dose of medicine made with senseless grass, and from then on, you will forget him. In your heart, this person will no longer exist. Ah! Tang Yin couldn't help but exclaim after hearing the Grand Elder's words. She never thought that if she stayed here, she would never be able to see Lin Yi again, and she would have to use the grass of forgetfulness to forget Lin Yi. Don't be surprised. Before, I wasn't moved by your prayer at all. This is also because of the heartless formula. The Grand Elder said faintly. There are gains and losses. Think about it yourself. Tang Yin's face was filled with pain, and Mingyao and Yushu were shocked as well. They didn't expect that in order to practice heartless arts, she needed to consume the grass of oblivion, and she had to forget about Lin Yi. To Tang Yin, this was an extremely painful thing. You should have felt it. Little Li and I have a kind of natural momentum that pushes people thousands of miles away. When you get close to us, you will feel a burst of chill. This is the ruthless formula. Highest Elder said. If the Grand Elder didn't mention it, Tang Yin wouldn't have noticed it. But now that the Grand Elder reminded her, Tang Yin remembered that from the first time she met them until now, there was a cold and unapproachable aura around them. This kind of aura made people not want to get close to them. They couldn't help but feel a sense of fear and distance. Can I not take it? Tang Yin asked hesitantly. Although she wanted to save Lin Yi, she didn't want to forget Lin Yi for the rest of her life. If she forgot Lin Yi, what was the point of her practice? Wasn't her biggest dream to become a practitioner, so that she wouldn't be a burden to Lin Yi? You have emotions in your heart. If you don't take it, it's not impossible. But it will be very difficult to overcome the demons in your heart. If you are not careful, the emotions and the heartless will intertwine and affect each other. You will go crazy, the Grand Elder said. Even if you don't go crazy, it is still a very painful thing to restrain each other. Of course, you are Bingtong's sister. If you go crazy and ask her for a fire spirit's fruit, she will definitely give it to you. Tang Yun hesitated after listening to the Grand Elder's words. She knew that the Grand Elder wasn't trying to scare her, but it was the truth. At her level, it was impossible for her to lie to Tang Yun. Chapter 1806. From the looks of it, if he wanted to save Lin Yi, he would have to stay here. But if he stayed here, he might not be able to practice because of his heart's demon, or even go berserk. That was an outcome that no one wanted to see. Let me think about it. Can I? Tang Yin didn't know what to do. She could only choose to discuss it with Mingyao and Yushu. Merciless heart. Sure. But you only have 1 day to think about it, the Grand Elder said. Why? Tang Yin paused. Your boyfriend can only last 1 or 2 days. If he doesn't get treated soon, then the fruit won't have any effect. The Grand Elder said. Then, can't we give him the ice spirit fruit first? Tang Yin asked anxiously. Merciless arts naturally, the Grand Elder said faintly. In my dictionary, there is no merciless. If you don't join Shuigu, then there's no need to talk about it. Tang Yin was sorrowful. She wondered if she would become like the Grand Elder after practicing the merciless arts. At that time, even if Lin Yi saw her, he wouldn't like her anymore, right? After all, who would like a cold and emotionless person? The Grand Elder was a living example. There was a powerful cold aura around her that made people want to stay away from her. It made people not want to get close to her, and want to stay far away from her. However, Elder Zhang, who had also practiced other water heart cultivation methods, was not the same. Moreover, he was very kind, which was completely different from Grand Supreme Elder and Xueli. Holy Hall. I'll give you an answer tomorrow morning, is that okay? Tang Yun hesitated. It's okay. The Great Elder said. This is not a problem. In order to make you feel at ease, I can first inject a stream of cold air into his body, to help you suppress the fire poison in his body. It will be enough to last until tomorrow night. Thank you, Grand Elder. Tang Yun felt relieved after hearing the Grand Elder's words, and her face showed gratitude. No need to thank me, it's just a deal, the Grand Elder said faintly. Tang Yun opened her mouth but didn't say anything. The Grand Elder was this kind of person. She said it before, she was heartless. The Grand Elder stood up and walked in front of Lin Yi. He placed his hand on Lin Yi's meridians and channeled cold energy into them. Lin Yi's body temperature suddenly dropped. While Tang Yun was amazed, Shu also let out a sigh of relief. She didn't have to help Lin Yi lower his body temperature anymore. Holy Church, alright, there should be no problem before tomorrow night. After the Great Elder finished speaking, he turned to Elder Zhang and instructed, Elder Zhang, take them to the guest room to rest. Yes. Elder Zhang cupped his fists and said, Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu brought Lin Yi and followed Elder Zhang back to the guest room. Elder Zhang bowed to them politely, and was about to leave when Tang Yun stopped him. Elder Zhang. Miss Tang, is there anything else? Although Elder Zhang's attitude towards Tang Yun and the others was not bad, it was obvious that he was trying to curry favor with them now. But it was no wonder. If Tang Yun really stayed in the Snow Valley, she would become an existence similar to the Great Elder, becoming one of the 3 leaders of the Snow Valley. How could Elder Zhang not be polite? Elder Zhang, I want to ask, does the heartless arts really have to be heartless? Tang Yun didn't dare to ask the Grand Elder before, but she was more familiar with Elder Zhang now. It has always been like this. The highest elder thought for a moment, then nodded and said, those who have cultivated the heartless formula have always been lonely until they die, dedicating all their lives to the Snow Valley. No one has ever gotten married or had children. Although Tang Yin had guessed this result, she was still a little disappointed after hearing Elder Zhang's confirmation. Who created this heartless arts? What a scam. Miss Tang, please be quiet. Elder Zhang was startled and smiled bitterly. Miss Tang, the heartless spell is a mantra created by the founder of the sect. It is the treasure of the Snow Valley. Although you are someone that the Great Elder thinks highly of, it is inevitable that you will be punished. The founder? Tang Yin paused. The one who has the same body type as me. Yes. Elder Zhang nodded. The founder of the sect was enlightened here and discovered the ancient ruins. He combined the chant left behind in the ancient ruins and created the art of Heartless. I have to say, the founder was a powerful person. He was able to create an ancient sect with the strength of an early phase golden class. That's amazing. Tang Yin was impressed as well. Although she had the same body type, she wouldn't be able to create such a powerful technique if she was in his shoes. But Tang Yin didn't understand. The founder was so powerful. Why did he create the Heartless arts? I'm not a practitioner, but from what I know, there are many powerful water and ice element techniques. Bingtang's sister's technique is also very powerful, but it won't affect her marriage. It's just that she can't lose her virginity before accepting the heritage. Sigh. Elder Zhang sighed and said, this will have to start from a legend. Although there are no detailed records in our Snow Valley's journal, but according to the word of mouth of the elders, there is a poignant love story. Love story? Tang Yun was surprised. She didn't think that the founder was a heartless person. There was love. That's right. Since you're about to become a disciple of the valley and the future Grand Elder, It's fine to let you know about it. The elders all know about it. Elder Zhang didn't try to hide it, and said directly, you should know that the Snow Valley and the Ice Palace belong to the same sect. The Snow Valley cultivates the fog-type mental cultivation method derived from the water type, while the Ice Palace cultivates the ice-type mental cultivation method derived from the water type. The founders of these two sects were actually a pair of senior and junior sisters. Ah! Tang Yun and the others widened their eyes at Elder Zhang's words. They didn't think that the Snow Valley and the Ice Palace had such a relationship. Although they are fellow disciples, and their relationship is quite good, they fell in love with the same man. This good thing has become a bad thing. Elder Zhang smiled bitterly. Therefore, the Ice Palace and the Snow Valley have a deep relationship. They support each other, but also compete and suppress each other. This is the situation caused by the two founders. Then they could both marry that man. One would be the main wife, and the other the small wife. Wouldn't that be great? How stupid! Yushu said. Chapter 1807. Meng Yao and Tang Yun looked at each other. If it was that easy to solve the problem back then, would there still be any problems? As expected, Elder Zhang shook his head and said helplessly, although that's the case, this pair of senior and junior sisters are both proud people. They don't want to share their love with others. Perhaps it's because they are senior and junior sisters that they don't want to put down their pride and don't want to give in. The miss opened her mouth slightly, but she didn't know why. But she thought of herself. She had a feeling that Elder Zhang was implying something. But she knew that Elder Zhang wouldn't do that, because he didn't know about her, Shu, and Tang Yun at all then. Did she like Linny? Or was she proud and didn't want to share with others? The thought made Meng Yao break out in a cold sweat. What was wrong with her heart? But before Meng Yao could think it through, Elder Zhang continued. Master Ice and Master Snow were that man's confidants back in the day. And that man didn't know how to choose when he was faced with two equally talented and beautiful girls. Chapter 1808. But, at least we're happier than Master Snow and Master Ice back then. I'm very happy, and so is Xiao Xiao. Tang Yun shook her head firmly. So, I don't want to use that senseless grass. But, if you don't use it, then there'll be a demon in your heart, and you'll go crazy. It'll be very difficult, and you'll be tortured by love. Elder Zhang said. So Master Snow made the senseless grass for her heir to use. Then Master Snow didn't use the senseless grass. But didn't she have the heartless formula too? Tang Yun asked. If she took the senseless grass, how could she still remember the grudges from back then? This. Elder Zhang paused for a moment before smiling bitterly. Ancestor Shui was a genius with a unique physique. She is not someone we can compare with. However, Elder Zhang suddenly stopped and looked at Tang Yun. He didn't know what to say. Yes, the founder of the sect had a unique physique, and Tang Yun was the same. This kind of hidden ice heart jade bone physique had never appeared since the founding of the Snow Valley. So, if Master Snow didn't need to use the senseless grass, then Tang Yun didn't need to either? However, Elder Zhang didn't dare to make any promises. He just advised, Miss Tang, think about it. You have mastered the heartless formula, and your whole body exudes an aura that makes people stay away from you. Even if he wakes up, will he still be with you? Look at Valley Master Shui and the Grand Elder. They're both like that, naturally giving off a sense of fear and respect. Tang Yun thought about it, and went silent. Elder Zhang was right. This was what Tang Yun was worried about. With the heartless formula, would Linny still like her? Even if he still had feelings for her, after being with her for a long time, he'd naturally stay away from her. Tang Yun felt a little sad. Linny could be saved, and she could become a practitioner, but she'd never be with Linny again. Could this be fate? Master Snow and Master Ice were like this, and now it was the same for her and Xiao Xiao? Would the tragedy of so many years ago happen again? Or is this a law of cause and effect? Alright, think about it yourself. I'll take my leave first. Elder Zhang had said what he needed to say, and the rest was up to Tang Yin to think about. It'd be great if she could figure it out, but there was nothing she could do if she couldn't. Looking at Elder Zhang's back, Tang Yin didn't say anything to stop him. There was no point for Elder Zhang to stay. He had already done what he could. Yao Shu, what should I do? Tang Yin hugged her head in pain as she looked at Lin Yi, her eyes filled with longing. I don't want to forget him, I really don't. I didn't spend a lot of time with him, but I was happy, really happy. I want to remember him forever. Sigh. Mingyao sighed. To be honest, she sympathized with Tang Yin, but at this moment, Tang Yin didn't have a choice. Either he stayed in the snowy valley to save Lin Yi, or he left the snowy valley, and Lin Yi would be in danger. How about you don't use it? Yushu suggested carefully. Elder Zhang also said that with the heartless arts, would Lin Yi still like me? He might hate me and hide from me. If I don't use it, wouldn't it be even more painful? Tang Yin said hesitantly. Shu scratched her head. She didn't know what to say. The ancestors' heartless arts is such a trap. Mingyao said. She went to harm others after she broke up with her love. You can't say that. Perhaps, it was only under that kind of painful state of mind that the heartless formula could be created. It became the treasure of the Snow Valley. Tang Yin said. But, she probably didn't think that this would happen, because all the people with this arts don't have a lover. They've been here since they were young, and they didn't have the chance to love, so to them it's nothing. You're right. It's rare to see someone like you who didn't grow up. Mingyao nodded. But you have such a strong body. No wonder you can withstand the cold. In the summer, your body is very cool, and you can lower Shu's temperature. Yeah, I'm the exact opposite of her. Tang Yin smiled. In order to lighten the atmosphere, she joked. Shu is the exact opposite of me. Could she be an inheritor? Who knows, maybe he's the inheritor of the fire element. Huh, that's true? Shu is the exact opposite of you. She can withstand the heat, but she's afraid of it. You can withstand the cold, but you're afraid of the cold. Mingyao was surprised to find this strange phenomenon. How? How is that possible? Yushu's face changed slightly. She returned to normal and said dumbly. How can it be so coincidental? If it's such a coincidence that all the people around Shield Bro are inheritors, wouldn't that be amazing? I'm a fire elemental, and Yun Sis is an ice elemental. We can play ice and fire with Shield Bro. Haha, you can play with Xiao Xiao. As for me, Tang Yin smiled bitterly and thought of the heartless arts. Shu, what nonsense are you talking about? It seems like you're asking for a beating today. Mingyao glared at Shu when she saw Tang Yun's sad face. This girl really knew how to rub it in. I'm not the one who said it. You guys are the one who said I'm a fire elemental. Yushu said, feeling wronged. Then you're fine now, aren't you? Shut up. Mingyao said. Oh. Yushu shut her mouth obediently. No matter how Mingyao and Yushu tried to persuade Tang Yun, they couldn't do anything about it. After all, if they let Tang Yun stay, it would be painful for her. If they didn't let her stay, what would happen to Lin Yi? So only Tang Yun could make this decision. No one else could interfere. One night passed just like that. Although Tang Yun had been hungry and tired for many days, after receiving the inheritance, it was as if she had been reborn. There was an indescribable aura around her, and even though she didn't sleep for the whole night, she didn't feel tired or sleepy at all. Instead, she was very energetic. The only regret was that her eyes were red, as if she had cried for a whole night. But she had finally made her final decision. Early in the morning, Grand Elder brought Elder Zhang and Sydney to the guest room where Tang Yun and the others were staying. Chapter 1809. Tang Yun wasn't in a hurry, but the Grand Elder, Sydney, and the others were. Greetings, Grand Elder, Valley Master Elder Zhang. Tang Yun, Mingyao, and Shu quickly stood up to greet them. You're welcome. The Grand Elder waved her hand. Tang Yun, have you thought it through and made a decision? Yes, I've thought it through and decided to stay in the snowy valley. Tang Yun used the word to show that she had made up her mind and was ready to become a member of the snowy valley. Ha 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 ha, good, very good, very good. The Grand Elder said the word good 3 times in a row. One could imagine how happy she was. Although she was heartless, she wasn't heartless. Tang Yun staying here was a great thing for the snowy valley. So naturally, the Grand Elder was very happy. Congratulations, Sister Tang Yun. Shueli also congratulated him happily. From now on, you and I are both Supreme Elders, so you don't have to be so courteous anymore. In the Snow Valley, except for the Supreme Elders, you don't have to greet anyone else. And Tang Yun wasn't too happy about this glory that the other people of the Snowy Valley saw. It was obvious that she wasn't in a good mood. The Grand Elder also saw through Tang Yun's mood. He was afraid that Tang Yun would change her mind, so he directly took out a small bottle and handed it to Tang Yun. This is the medicinal liquid made from the senseless grass. Drip his blood into the bottle and drink it. When you wake up tomorrow, his memory will no longer be in your mind. Oh, Tang Yun responded and took the small bottle from the Grand Elder. We're preparing to open the ancestral hall. I want to accept you as a disciple on behalf of the founder of the sect. This is a big event for the Snowy Valley. We need to prepare in advance. I'll have Elder Zhang wait for you at the door. After you drink it, you can come out immediately. At that time, Elder Zhang will help you save Lin Yi and give you a prescription. The Grand Elder said. Okay. Tang Yun was almost jumping out word by word. But whether it was the Grand Elder or Sydney, they didn't care. It was normal for Tang Yun to be in a bad mood. The Great Elder could tell that Tang Yun was a little depressed, but she thought that it was normal. After all, Tang Yun was about to part ways with her lover. No one would be happy if they could never see each other again. However, the Grand Elder was confident that when Tang Yun woke up the next morning, her memory of Lin Yi would no longer exist. Ever since the medicinal liquid of the senseless grass was concocted, no one had taken it. Because apart from the founder of the sect, the Snow Valley had always looked for suitable orphans to train from a young age. Therefore, the Valley Lords of the Snow Valley all had the surname Shui. However, the formula was passed down by the founder of the sect, Ancestor Shui, so it couldn't be wrong. The Great Elder and Shueli turned around and left the room. Elder Zhang sighed and said to Tang Yun, Miss Tang, I'll be waiting for you at the door. You can bid farewell to me one last time. Okay. Tang Yun nodded to Elder Zhang gratefully. If Elder Zhang didn't leave, Tang Yun would have to find an excuse to let him leave first. But since Elder Zhang took the initiative to say goodbye, Tang Yun's wish was fulfilled. Elder Zhang quickly walked out of the room and closed the door, leaving the last bit of time for Tang Yun and the others. Tang Yun sis, have you really made up your mind? Yushu looked at Tang Yun's determined gaze and felt her heart ache. She used to hate Tang Yun and curse her, but now, she only felt sympathy and reluctance to part with Tang Yun. Yes, I have decided. Tang Yun nodded and said firmly and solemnly. But, won't you be in pain in the future? Mengyao was also worried. Didn't they say that if you have feelings in your heart, you will go crazy? Since I have the hidden ice heart jade bone constitution, which is very rare, then why would the people of Shuegu let me go crazy? Tang Yun would sometimes act shamelessly. They want me to inherit the power of Sky-class late-phase peak, so they will definitely try their best to help me solve all kinds of problems. That's true. Plus, you are Bingtong's sister, Xiao Xiao's good sister. Even if Shuegu can't do anything, the Ice Palace won't just let you go crazy. They will definitely provide you with the Fire Spirit's fruit. Mengyao nodded. Yeah, if that's the case, then what do I have to be afraid of? Tang Yun smiled. The only thing I'm worried about now is Lin Yi, so. Sigh. Mengyao and Yushu sighed at the same time and fell into silence. Before, the girls were most worried about Lin Yi. If Lin Yi woke up and saw Tang Yun with heartless arts, would he still like her? Even if he did like her, how could he accept that natural aura around Tang Yun that made him want to stay away from her? Plus, Tang Yun would have already forgotten about Lin Yi. Even if Lin Yi still liked Tang Yun, it would only cause him more pain. But since Tang Yun had made her decision, The one who would be in pain would be Tang Yun, not Lin Yi. She would always have Lin Yi in her heart. So now, Meng Yao and Yushu didn't have to worry about Lin Yi anymore. On the other hand, Tang Yun was worried about Lin Yi. We will take good care of him. Meng Yao looked at Tang Yun and said solemnly, I will guarantee with my life that I will take care of him for you. Thank you. Tang Yun smiled. After getting Meng Yao's promise, she finally let go of the worry in her heart. This is what we should do. We will always be good sisters. Meng Yao said. Haha. Okay, let's not talk about it anymore. Time is limited. It won't be fun if the people from Snowy Valley find out. Tang Yun smiled bitterly and quickly opened the small bottle containing the senseless grass. Then, she put her finger in her mouth and bit down hard. Actually, Tang Yun didn't know where she got the courage to bite her finger, but after everything was done, it was natural. No matter how painful her finger was, it didn't hurt her heart. Tang Yun's finger was bleeding, but wasn't her heart bleeding as well? However, she had no other choice. This was the only big thing she could do for him. And it was also the last thing she could do for him. Yun sis, are you in pain? Why are you crying? Yushu couldn't help but ask when she saw the tears in Tang Yun's eyes. Shoo! Meng Yao kicked Yushu. How can you be so heartless? How painful can your finger be? She just doesn't want to. Oh! Yushu nodded and didn't say anything else. Tang Yun slowly dripped her blood into the small bottle in her hand. Chapter 1810. That's right, it was her own blood. According to the Grand Elder, she should have dripped Lin Yi's blood into the bottle of forgetful grass and let Tang Yun drink it to forget about Lin Yi. However, Tang Yun did the exact opposite. This was the decision she made after hesitating for a whole night. Holy Hall let her bear all the pain herself. Let Lin Yi forget about her happily, forget about the past. Even if she became heartless in the future, Lin Yi wouldn't feel any pain or discomfort. Because at that time, Lin Yi wouldn't know who Tang Yun was anymore. Yun, you really won't regret it. Meng Yao saw Tang Yun's actions, and her heart ached. This was separating a pair of lovers. If it was the old Meng Yao, she might be happy, but at this moment, she didn't feel happy at all. She would rather be the one staying here. Since I've decided, I won't regret it. Tang Yun picked up the mixture of her blood and forgetful grass, and came in front of Lin Yi. She slowly raised her hand, and helped Lin Yi up. She slowly poured the liquid into Lin Yi's mouth. Tang Yun's body trembled because of excitement and nervousness. Tears blurred her eyes. An old song sounded in Tang Yun's ears. Don't talk about separation so easily. Since separation, don't sigh anymore. The sweetness of the past only belongs to yourself. The cold heart is still beautiful. Walking in the snow and looking for plum blossoms. Bid farewell to winter. Find a new me to replace the old me. Don't talk about separation so easily. Since separation, don't be afraid of loneliness. Yesterday's wind and rain have passed. Cherish the dreams of the future even more. New smiles, new thoughts. Find a dawn to walk out of yourself. When the last drop of the liquid flowed into Lin Yi's mouth, Tang Yun's hand trembled slightly. The bottle fell to the ground and shattered. At this moment, Tang Yun's heart was broken. She lowered her head, her heart in a mess. But when she raised her head again, her face was full of smiles as she looked at Meng Yao and Shu. Alright Lin Yi, I'll leave him to you from now on. In the future, you will be his first and second wives. Meng Yao forced a smile. Tang Yun's joke wasn't funny at all. Even Shu, who always wanted to be a small wife, didn't laugh. Alright, it's time for Elder Zhang to treat Lin Yi. With that, Tang Yun bowed deeply to Meng Yao and Shu. Lin Yi, I'll be counting on you guys from now onwards. Please tell the people around him not to mention me in front of him. Meng Yao and Yushu nodded silently. Although Tang Yun's request made them uncomfortable, if they didn't do as Tang Yun said, it would be a waste of Tang Yun's effort. Tang Yun was afraid that Lin Yi would see her become heartless, so she gave the forgetful grass to Lin Yi first. This was to prevent both of them from hurting each other even more in the future. Elder Zhang. Tang Yin opened the door and saw Elder Zhang standing far away at the corner of the wall. Perhaps it was to avoid arousing suspicion, but he didn't stand too close. Holy hell, in fact, with Elder Zhang's eyes and ears as a sky class, if he wanted to eavesdrop, he would be able to hear it no matter how far he stood. However, Elder Zhang didn't have the intention to eavesdrop. In his eyes, Tang Yun and the others were his granddaughters, and Tang Yun was saying goodbye to Linny for the last time. They would definitely say some sweet nothings. No matter how thick Elder Zhang's skin was, he wouldn't eavesdrop on these things. Miss Tang, have you taken the forgetful grass? Elder Zhang asked. Yes. Tang Yin nodded. You can help save Linny now. Good, that's how it should be. Elder Zhang nodded. The ice spirit fruit is ready. It was just picked. The fresher it is, the more obvious the effect is. Thank you, Elder Zhang. Tang Yin said gratefully. Elder Zhang didn't say anything else, and quickly walked into the room. At this time, the disciple who had gone to pick the ice spirit fruit returned. He handed a small box to Elder Zhang and left. He didn't dare to stay for even a second longer. As for Elder Zhang, he quickly opened the small box and took out a translucent, white and flawless fruit that was similar to a ginseng. The fruit's material was like a transparent jelly, but it wasn't soft. Everyone present felt an incomparably refreshing aura, and their minds were refreshed. What a refreshing smell. Tang Yin's senses and control over the cold air were much sharper than normal people's ever since she'd gone through the mutation. The sacred fruit of ice spirit grows under the layer of ice in extremely cold snowy valleys. For cultivators who practice the extreme Yang Heart Sutra and Fire Heart Sutra, it is a must-have for curing qi deviation. As Elder Zhang explained, his hands did not stop moving. Like a magic trick, he quickly cut the ice spirit fruit into pieces. He did not have a knife in his hand. It was obvious that he was using his Zhen Qi to cut the fruit. The fact that he was able to do this shocked Tang Yin and the others. After cutting the fruit, Elder Zhang put it into Lin Yi's mouth. His movements were as smooth as water. After putting the fruit into Lin Yi's mouth, Elder Zhang sent a stream of cold air into Lin Yi's body. After that he said, "All right, it's done. He's fine now." "Thank you, Elder Zhang." Tang Yin heard Elder Zhang's words and sighed in relief. Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, let out a sigh of relief as well. The Grand Elder had injected cold air into Lin Yi's body to suppress the fire poison, but Lin Yi's complexion was still very pale. But after eating the fruit today, his complexion was slowly turning back to normal. However, although Lin Yi's face returned to normal, he didn't wake up. This made Tang Yin and the others quite confused. However, Elder Zhang was the first to answer Tang Yin's question. "I have a prescription here. Brew the medicine according to the method. He'll wake up in a month." Another month. Tang Yin was a little disappointed, but happy at the same time. If Linny woke up now and saw her, how would she deal with him? The Grand Elder and Elder Zhang both said that after drinking the forgetfulness grass, he would forget about his lover when he woke up. Could he have forgotten about himself? So Tang Yin was a little worried. Chapter 1811. 1 month is already very short for a cultivator who has suffered from qi deviation. Elder Zhang smiled bitterly. Plus, I said 1 month at most. Although the fruit is a miraculous medicine, the time it takes to wake up depends on the practitioner's constitution. St. Hall. So that's how it is. Tang Yin nodded and said, "Then the ingredients on the prescription. Those are just normal ingredients. You can buy them all at the pharmacy." Elder Zhang said. Meng Yao nodded. It seemed like she was the only one who could take on this mission. Meng Yao took the prescription from Elder Zhang and put it away solemnly. This was something that could save Lin Yi's life, after all. She couldn't afford to neglect it at all. "Miss Chu, Miss Chun, you can leave the valley now," Elder Zhang said to Meng Yao and Yushu. "The ceremony and the disciple acceptance ceremony are about to begin. You are not from the valley, so you can't stay here." Meng Yao looked at Tang Yun and the unconscious Lin Yi. She didn't know what to say. Elder Zhang, can I send them off? Tang Yun knew that since the decision was made, she couldn't change it. She could only accept it. However, she could fight for it. She could walk with Yao Yao, Shu, and Lin Yi and never see them again. St. Hall. Alright. Elder Zhang was a kind man. As long as Tang Yun's request wasn't too difficult, he would agree. Meng Yao and Yushu packed their bags. Yushu was the one who carried Lin Yi here. But now, there were disciples waiting at the entrance with a stretcher. Yushu didn't need to carry Lin Yi anymore. They would help carry Lin Yi out of the valley and onto the car. It wasn't a long journey from the guest room to the car outside the valley, but it seemed especially short under Tang Yun's feet. Even though you've escorted me for 1,000 miles, we still have to part ways. Tang Yun's eyes stared at Lin Yi's face blankly, a hint of reluctance in her clear eyes. I want to see your face clearly. Perhaps this separation will be eternal. But at this moment, I'm very proud and happy. I'm finally no longer that helpless vase. I won't be a burden to you anymore. When we meet again, I can proudly tell you that I can finally help you. But at that time, you might not remember me anymore. There was a smile on Tang Yun's face, but she couldn't stop her tears from covering her eyes. Her vision was foggy, as if she'd suddenly returned to her 12th year of high school. The small path where she met Lin Yi, the first date under the shade of the tree, the romantic night in West Star Village. These would become memories forever, buried in the deepest part of her memories, memories that belonged only to her. The person in his memories would also no longer remember this sweet past that no one cared about anymore. Tang Yun twirled the diamond ring on her finger. Her face was filled with determination. Yao Yao Shu, I'll leave Lin Yi in your hands. Take good care of him for me. From now on, there will be no Tang Yun in his life. Meng Yao pursed her lips and listened to Tang Yun's words. Tears flowed down her eyes uncontrollably. She used to hate Tang Yun, but now she really didn't want to part with Tang Yun. She really didn't want to. Yun sis. I'm so touched. Yushu also cried at this moment. She realized that Tang Yun's position in her heart was no less than Meng Yao's. She knew that this separation might be forever. Tang Yun was different from Xiao Xiao. Her heartless arts made it impossible for her to return to Lin Yi's side. However, the three of them didn't say it too clearly. It was enough for them to understand each other's meaning. They didn't need to be too obvious. After all, the forgetfulness herb was for Lin Yi, not Tang Yun. They were afraid that Elder Zhang would find out. St. Hall. People have their ups and downs. The moon waxes and wanes. It's hard to be perfect. Elder Zhang walked over and sighed. You win some, you lose some. Let's go back. Tang Yun nodded and looked at Lin Yi one last time. Then she turned around and walked towards Snowy Valley. Elder Zhang sighed again and quickly followed. Only Meng Yao, Yushu, Lin Yi, and a few disciples from Snowy Valley were left here. Please go back. After the disciple put Lin Yi in the car, he said politely to Meng Yao and Yushu. Although his tone was polite, there was an irresistible majesty to it. Let's go. Meng Yao pulled Shu, who was staring at Tang Yun's back in a daze. Yushu nodded and got in the car with Meng Yao. The sound of an engine sounded, and the car started smoothly. This car had been specially modified by Tianlong, and there was no need to worry about it starting in the snow and ice. Meng Yao and Yushu, however, weren't in the mood to think about the car at this moment. Their hearts were all heavy. Their destination was West Star Village. This time, they had to go back and tell old Lin about it. Once they were done, they would go back to Songshan. Not far from the carriage was the Snowy Valley. It was bustling with noise and excitement. The annual sacrificial ceremony was held earlier than usual. This time, the Snowy Valley held the ceremony and the disciple acceptance ceremony at the same time to show how much they valued Tang Yun. With Tang Yun's physique, even the great elder didn't dare to call himself her master or inheritor. She walked on a different path of cultivation. In Tang Yun's path of cultivation, the great elder could only help and guide her. Most of the time, Tang Yun had to comprehend on her own, because her physique was something that even the great elder didn't have. So, The Grand Elder accepted her as a disciple under the name of the founder. The main character of this worship ceremony, Tang Yun, was standing on the stage quietly. There wasn't a trace of a smile on her cold face. She didn't look happy at all. However, no one dared to question her. Even the Grand Elder thought that Tang Yun's personality changed after consuming the forgetfulness grass. It was an honor to be the center of attention. At this moment, Tang Yun was like the ruler of the snowy valley. Everyone was respectful to her. Even the Grand Elder and Sydney were polite to her. However, Tang Yun wasn't happy at all. She wanted Lin Yi to see how she looked right now. She didn't have to hide behind him anymore. She could hold up half the sky for him. But this wish would never come true. Chapter 1812. Not long after Ming Yao and Yushu left, another car drove out from the valley as well. It was to pick up Tang Yun's parents and Xiaoming. This was also Tang Yun's idea. Not only would she miss her parents in Songshan, but Lin Yi might meet them. Tang Yun was afraid that her parents would spill the beans in front of Lin Yi. Especially her mother, Tang Yun was really worried. That was why after Ming Yao left, she asked the Snowy Valley to send people to pick them up. With Tang Yun's current position, even if she brought 3 idlers to the Snowy Valley, no one would dare say a word. Dark Palace. The Dark Shadow Group didn't get any information about the tourists, but they did get news that worried the palace master Wan Heir. Chu Pingzhan got into a car accident, and no one knew if he was dead or alive. He was in the intensive care unit of the hospital, and he was still in critical condition. When Elderly told Wan Heir about this, Wan Heir's face turned pale. How could he have gotten into a car accident? The investment failed, the company went bankrupt, and it was said that he committed suicide. Elderly said as he told the palace master, Wan Heir, about what happened. The investment failed. Even if it failed, he wouldn't commit suicide. Pengzhan isn't a sore loser. Why would he commit suicide? Wan Heir didn't believe the news. Plus there's Yao Yao. He hasn't even seen me yet. Why would he commit suicide? There were witnesses who said that he committed suicide, that he hit the car himself. Elderly sighed. That person, wasn't he lying? Wan Heir still didn't believe that Pengzhan would commit suicide. Not only the eyewitness, the entire incident was recorded on the dashcam of the car that caused the accident. This is the key. Our people have also seen this video. Son-in-law's eyes were lifeless and filled with despair. It should be the eyes of a person who committed suicide. Elderly smiled bitterly and said, although I also don't believe that young master would do such a stupid thing, but this is the truth. Why did his company go bankrupt? Is someone trying to kill him? Wan Heir still didn't believe that Chu Pingzhan had committed suicide. I'm not sure if someone is trying to harm him. I can send someone to investigate, but we must hide it from the Grand Elder. Elderly said carefully, however, this isn't the main point. The most important thing right now is how to get the son-in-law out of danger. Great Cyclic Pill and Meridian Opening Pill? Palace Lord Wan Heir was slightly taken aback. The Great Cyclic Pill and the Meridian Opening Pill were pills for cultivators to consume. One was a pill that could extend one's life when one's injuries were extremely severe, while the Meridian Opening Pill was a pill that could repair damaged meridians, bones, and internal organs. Takidara, but it wasn't just for practitioners. Normal people could use it as well, and Pengzhan's current condition required him to take a Great Recovery Pill first, followed by the Meridian Opening Pill. These 2 pills, however, were quite expensive. The Meridian Opening Pill was a little lacking, but the Great Recovery Pill was something even the Sky Elixir sect didn't have many in stock. Not only was it difficult to concoct a Great Recovery Pill, but it also required very rare treasures. It was only natural that it was priceless. And so, Palace Lord Wan Heir had a bitter expression on her face. The relationship between the Dark Palace and the Sky Elixir sect wasn't good at all. They wouldn't even be able to get half a normal pill from the Sky Elixir sect, much less a Great Recovery Pill. The Dark Palace had their own refiners, but they were only at the first level of the golden class. They could barely make the meridian opening pill. But the great cyclic pill was out of the question. But even if it was the meridian opening pill, Wonner thought that the Grand Elder would be the first to object if she asked for it for Pengzhan. Wouldn't he? With that thought, Wonner's eyes dimmed. I'll try my best. Elderly understood what Wonner meant, but he didn't have the confidence to ask for these pills. He was an elder of a sect, but it could be said that the rarity of the Dark Palace's pills was even higher than those of the hidden houses, since the Sky Elixir sect would sell a batch of pills that weren't too rare in the public auction every year. But the Dark Palace and the Sky Elixir sect had a tense relationship, and the Dark Palace couldn't bring themselves to bid on the auction. With the Dark Palace's identity, they naturally wouldn't do something like ordering other hidden houses to bid for the pills. Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, didn't run into any more danger on the way back, and the robbers didn't show up again. They had to find their way there, but they were familiar with the way back. After a few days of hard work, they finally made it back to West Star Village. But although Lin Yi's problem was solved, the Miss and Shu weren't happy at all. The cost of Lin Yi's recovery was too heavy. They went with 4 people, but came back with 3 people. One of them had to stay in Snowy Valley, and they might not be able to meet again. Old Lin's heart sank when he saw Meng Yao and Shu getting out of the car. But Tang Yun wasn't there. Mo Kongwen had already warned him about this, but seeing it happen now, Old Lin still couldn't accept it. Yao Yao Shu, where's Yun Yun? Old Lin couldn't help but ask. She stayed in Snowy Valley. Meng Yao's face didn't look too good as well. She was the only one who didn't come back. Stayed in Snowy Valley? What do you mean? Old Lin asked in a low voice, looking at Mo Kongwen with a strange expression. Meng Yao couldn't hold back her tears at the mention of Tang Yun, and this made Old Lin even more worried. Could it be that something bad happened to her? Old Lin asked with a serious face. No, according to my guess, Tang Yun stayed in Snowy Valley? Mo Kongwen looked at Meng Yao and Yushu and asked. He had already guessed something from their expressions. In fact, from the moment Tang Yun left the West Star Village, Mo Kongwen had already predicted her fate. However, he was powerless to change it. He didn't have the ability to defy the heavens and change her fate. He had already seen through Tang Yun's fate. Stayed in Snowy Valley? Old Lin was startled. Yes, Yun Yun stayed in Snowy Valley. Meng Yao sobbed and told Old Lin and Mo Kongwen what happened. Even though Mo Kongwen had guessed Tang Yun's fate, he still opened his mouth wide when he heard that Tang Yun accepted the inheritance in Snowy Valley. It's the beginning of the month. Readers reading on their phones, please vote for the Fishman, thank you. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.